30 seconds.
All right, well, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the City Council meeting. Today is November 20th, 2023. It's approximately 1 p.m. Before we have our Pledge of Allegiance, I'm going to ask you if you please rise for a brief moment of silence as we reflect back on the brave men and women of the United States Armed Forces as they protect our interests around the globe, as well as the courageous men and women of the Las Cruces Police Department and the Las Cruces Fire Department as they keep our city safe 24/7, 365. And in 2 more days, on November 22nd, we'll mark the 60th anniversary of the assassination of President John F. Kennedy. Councilor Pincomo, if you join me in the pledge, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, as we always start off our meetings with the pets of the week, Amy DeFelix, who's... Yes, that's right. Thank you for reminding me, Councilor. Also, if I could please have you rise for a brief moment of silence on passing of First Lady Rosalind Carter, who passed away yesterday, I believe. Thank you. Thank you, Councilor. Okay, so as we begin, we have our pets of the week, and looks like Amy DeFelix is on Zoom. So, Amy, are you there?
Yes, hello, I'm here.
Okay.
Hello, everyone. I'm Amy DeFelix. I'm one of the rescue coordinators for the Animal Services Center in the Messiah Valley. I'm the one that picks pets of the week and presents them every week. And as always, well, let me start by sharing my screen. Presentation. There we go. Alrighty. And let me turn off my video just so I don't get that cut off, just in case. There we go. As always, we start off with our cat of the week. Our cat of the week this week, his name is Lovebug. His animal number is 69270. And he says, like my name suggests, I really am such a love bug. I hardly know what a stranger is, because all the humans I've met so far have been immediate friends. Come fall in love with me and take me home. I just can't wait to be spoiled and loved on for the rest of my days. And then we have our dog of the week. Her name is Astra. Her number is 61761, for reference if anyone's interested. And she says, I'm a pretty pocket pitty at just under 40 pounds. I love playing with toys, and I'd love my future forever home to have a nice yard for me to play in. Of course, I'll also love to go on walks every day to get our steps in. As long as I'm having fun, staying active, and spending time with my forever family, I'll be the happiest girl I can be. And as far as events this week, of course, we still have our Fall in Love adoption special, so the entire month of November. All of our adoptions are only $75. We will have an offsite adoption event this Saturday at the Farmers Market of Las Cruces. I didn't write the dates down, but it is Saturday, November 25th. We will be there from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. And of course, located downtown Las Cruces. Our booth is pretty much always situated right by Oregon Mountain Outfitters. I'm terrible with cardinal directions. I don't remember which side that is, but off of one of the ends, the one by Oregon Mountain Outfitters, you'll find us. You'll find our awesome adoptable dogs for you guys to meet and fall in love with, and hopefully take home. And something that I think is a little appropriate, I think, for the Thanksgiving holiday, the Thanksgiving safety in general. Is of course, if you are the host for your Thanksgiving lunch or dinner and you do have kind of a socially anxious pet, just keep in mind they are not obligated to hang out with your guests if they don't want to, if they might be a little bit spooked by strangers. We definitely recommend having them in a crate in a separate room, preferably someplace that they're already comfortable with. If they already have like their own room, whether it's like a crate in your bedroom or something nice and cozy for them to hang out in while you have guests, to keep them a lot more comfortable, a lot less anxious. Of course, providing a long-lasting enrichment, so like a long-standing chew toy or a chew treat. Those long, they're supposed to last a long time. like a little treat that'll give them a couple hours to work on, or a Kong, frozen with peanut butter inside it, or yogurt, or lick bats, anything kind of to keep them busy while you're busy entertaining your guests and having a good Thanksgiving meal. But if you do have pets that are a little bit more outgoing, and especially pets that love to beg for Thanksgiving dinner, there's no harm in giving them a little bit of a treat, especially because it's a holiday, it's a special occasion, but definitely use moderation. I wouldn't suggest giving them like a full-on Thanksgiving dinner like entirely, but definitely you can add some like little bits of turkey or vegetables or just a little bit of gravy into their kibble, their already meal. Something nice, something small, like nothing too extra on the calories, I suppose, in addition to their meal, just so they can get like a little special treat. Definitely no bones, like no like or anything like that. Sugary foods, especially xylitol, is toxic to dogs, so no xylitol or artificial sweeteners. If your desserts might have that, or high sodium foods like ham or anything else with high sodium. Only just because that can impact their gastrointestinal system, their stomachs a little bit more, spike their blood sugar if it's extra sugary foods. Bones like chicken bones, turkey bones are fragile, and if they like dogs don't really, when they eat like chicken or turkey, they're super excited. They're not necessarily careful, and that could be a choking hazard, or the bones could like break apart. They're a little bit fragile, so they can snap and it could injure them. So definitely be careful. Just definitely well cooked, boneless turkey meat, some vegetables like green beans, potatoes, and maybe a little bit of gravy is kind of the optimal sort of little treat for them. A lot of veterinary clinics, kind of nationwide, really see a spike in what's called pancreatitis after holidays, especially like Thanksgiving and Christmas. And that's when the dogs, or maybe even sometimes cats, but it's definitely common in dogs, get a whole bunch of like, they load up on the turkey and Thanksgiving meal. They end up eating a lot, and a lot of unhealthy foods for them, high in sodium, high in fat, especially. It can cause something called pancreatitis, which is a inflammation of their pancreas, and if it's not treated, it can be very dangerous for their health. So here are some signs of pancreatitis, just for you to keep an eye on it, just in case. So it's repeated vomiting. So an instance is something you might be like a little bit wary of, but if it keeps repeating like several times within a few hours, like within the day or night, or periodically over the next several days, if you keep noticing that they keep spitting up, keep vomiting, definitely get them checked out at the vet clinic. If you see that their abdomen is a little bit bloated, they're like a little rounder than normal, and it's even a little bit painful, like they might be a little gassy, and it hurts for you to touch them. And their abdomen, that's also a sign. If they have diarrhea, of course, a change in diet for dogs and cats can cause diarrhea pretty quickly. It does depend on their stomachs, but pets can have like delicate systems. But diarrhea can be a common symptom of pancreatitis. Same with lethargy. So if they're not as active as they normally are, if they're more like, it's uncommon for them to be kind of being listless, laying around, kind of overall being low energy and not looking well. That's also a sign that something's wrong, and it could be pancreatitis. If it's in conjunction with all these other symptoms, then of course fever. Their body's just kind of realizes there's something wrong, and they're trying to actively fight it, basically. So it's like their fever, and that's definitely a sign that you know that they need to be seen by a vet as quickly as possible. But of course, if you keep the Thanksgiving snacks within moderation, don't give them anything too high in fat, too high in sodium. You can still let them celebrate a little bit, but you can prevent pancreatitis and have them have a nice and a safe and happy Thanksgiving and rest of the holiday season. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Amy. So next we're gonna have Sarah Rainey for the Jobs of the Week. Are you there? Looks like you're there. Thanks.
Yes, I am. Thank you for having me again. Let me share my screen. And can you all see that?
Not yet, but looks like you're getting ready to.
Yeah.
We're just seeing the title so far.
Okay. Perfect. There we go. Okay, for the Jobs of the Week, we have...
Still not there yet, Sarah. Oh, there you go. Okay, thank you.
It's good. Sorry, there's a little delay. Okay, we have for the city of Las Cruces, we have the Crime Victim Advocate. It pays $20.19 an hour, and the position post closes on 11/27. We also have for the city of Las Cruces, a police IT support technician. That position starts at $24.78 an hour, and the posting closes on the 27th as well. For the White Sands Missile Range, we have a security administrative specialist. That pay ranges from $15 an hour to $40 an hour, depending on experience, and the posting closes in January, unless filled before, so. Another local one is the Mesilla Valley Community of Hope. They are looking for a supportive housing services care manager. The salary wasn't posted, so it depends on experience. The posting closes in December. La Clinica de Familia is looking for an administrative assistant. That position pays $15.90 an hour, and the posting closes on December 9th. And then lastly, we have Frank's Supply Company. They need a shipping and receiving clerk. That position pays between $26,000 and $36,000 a year, and that posting closes in February. As always, if anyone is looking for any sort of employment, please come down to our office at 226 South Alameda Boulevard. You can call us at 524-6250 or log on to Employ&M. Any one of our social media sites as well. We have Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, and now TikTok. If you guys need any more information, feel free to reach out to me or anyone in the Alameda office. We appreciate you having us again. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you very much, Sarah. We appreciate it. Okay, so now we're going to go to some presentations of some awards. And I know you probably think, gosh, there's sure a lot of awards lately. Well, that's true, because I've got, what, 2 more meetings, Christine, before I turn into a pumpkin? So I wouldn't say I've been procrastinating, but it's just, just doing a lot of catching up. So I want to ask if John Moscato, Dean Riggs, and Royal Jones would please come forward. To my right, please. Yeah. Your left. How you doing? How you doing? So many of us know John Moscato. He's usually the spokesperson for Sierra Norte or the Metro Verde subdivision, but these are 2 of his partners. But I just want to say a couple things. One, for those of you who aren't aware of that great subdivision, that one that's really is just making so many houses, it's turning to so many places to live. Councilor Coran, that's her district, I believe. It's probably the fastest growing part of the city. And I remember when John had come to council years ago, when what he was proposing, I always joke with him. I said, you had to have read every one of the council members when they were running for office, and you built this subdivision based on that, because it has everything from connectable streets to walking paths, energy efficient homes, solar ready houses, and the list goes on, golf course, and I think you have certain areas for businesses to move in there. And then recently you volunteered to come up with a percent, should we get a grant to be able to extend Mesa Grande south. And that's a big to-do. But recently, as the voters passed a resolution to build a fire station, is that number 8 or number 9, Chief? 8? 9, okay. So John is very humble, very quiet, and I don't know how it came out of the conversation. And it turns out that John and his partners have donated that land, that 3 acres, which is worth about $1.2 million, so that we can build that fire station on that land. So yeah, I just want to thank you all for your generosity. I mean, when you get right down to it, you are really what, I guess, the gold standard of what developers should look like. They do a good product, you give back to the community, and you don't give us a bunch of land that's sitting in a flood zone. You know what I mean? And that's really good. And so I wanted to give you all the Mayor's Distinguished Service Award for your generous contribution to the City of Las Cruces for Fire Station 9, November 2023. So this first one is to John Moscato. Dean Riggs, Sierra Norte Land Holdings, for your generous contribution. City of Las Cruces, Fire Station number 9, November 2023. Here, you guys can have these if you want. And last but not least, Royal Jones, Sierra Norte Land Holdings, for your generous contribution to the City of Las Cruces for Fire Station number 9, November 2023. Do any of you would like to say anything?
Thank you guys so much for recognizing us for this. And thank you, council and mayor, for all the things you've done to help us. I know John works with you mainly, and in the end, we always seem to come up with the right thing that works for the city and works for us and works for you guys. And just thank you so much for working with us the way you do. And Fire Chief, we're glad we're able to help. And we're really a big part of Las Cruces. It seems like every year since we've got this development going now, along with Sonoma, where half the new homes built in Las Cruces are built on the property that we're selling to the 12 different builders from the area that are building homes. So it's quite the good project. It's all green development. It's all doing it, like he said, and what the council has been wanting. So we love working with you guys. And I know that recently we had a vote and we're losing a couple of you. And we hate to see you go, but thank you for all you've done and all the things we've done together. So, Tessa and
Appreciate that, Royal. Thank you very much. Let's take a quick picture. All right, that concludes our awards banquet. So we'll go ahead and awards presentation. We'll go ahead and get back up there. Okay, so this is the conflict of interest statement. This is where I'll ask if any member of the city council, city manager, or city manager staff has any known conflict of interest on any item on the agenda.
None, Graham.
None, Veda.
None.
Okay, seeing none. Now we're going to go to public participation. This is where members of the public can speak to council for a total of 7 minutes, 3 minutes for public discussion, and 4 minutes for anything that's on the agenda. If it is on the agenda, we're going to ask if you could please wait until that item comes forward so that you can speak, because council won't be able to respond to you otherwise. Unless you have to leave, just let us know. So I usually start, and on the anything you want to talk about, I'm going to ask that it not be pertaining to any pending litigation. Okay, so I usually start on my left, and I start on the first row, and nobody's there, so second row. No? Okay, third. Oh, yes, Terry.
Mayor Pro Tem Gondara, and councilors. I'm here today because I watched the videos of the city council meetings for November the 6th.
Excuse me, Terry, did you state your name?
I'm Terry Miller.
Okay, sorry.
Sorry. And October 16th. And there were two things that made such an impression on me that I decided to make a public comment. The first was the process of the city council went through during the November 6th meeting to address the proposed demolition of the Fielder home in the historic Mesquite district. Once the presentation by the staff was over, all of you immediately began asking thoughtful, important questions, and all of you listened carefully to the citizens who came to speak. Then, when all was said and done, each of you came to the conclusion to table the demolition to make certain this was the right and legal step to take. It was clear from your actions you are concerned about preserving our local history as much as possible. Thank you. The second reason I'm here has to do with something I noticed during public comments at the October 16th meeting. There were two issues the majority of the speakers talked about. The first issue addressed concerns about vandalism, theft, public drug use, and problems related to homelessness, and is an issue that has been front and center at our city council meetings for months. The second issue addressed the safety of our roads for bicyclists in particular. Both issues are extremely serious, but there was a difference in the way they were presented to the City Council this time. The first four speakers expressed their concerns about the crime issue, but it was the fourth speaker, a business owner, rightly distressed about vandalism at her business, who near the end of her time asked the City Council what she could do to help lower crime in the city. Then the next three speakers addressed road safety for bicyclists and talked about a plan called Vision Zero. I looked it up and learned Vision Zero is a strategy that focuses on eliminating all traffic fatalities and severe injuries while increasing safe, healthy, and equitable mobility for all. During one of the presentations, the speaker said, "I don't want to complain, I want to offer ideas." Plus, all three of these speakers belong to a group or groups that work with the city on bicycle safety issues. So what I realized was these four speakers clearly were more interested in finding ways to resolve these problems rather than just complain about them. And that's how we citizens of Las Cruces get things done. And that's how we keep our city growing and thriving, because when we work together to solve problems that every community faces, we absolutely can make all the difference in the world. Thank you for all you do for all of us, and happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you, Terry. I appreciate your comments. Yes, Councilor.
Ms. Miller, I just want to thank you for everything that you contribute to our community, especially for being founder of the Readers Alliance, a Children's Reading Alliance, and how it's helped many of our children throughout the years to become book lovers, and they've learned to read and to love reading. So thank you for that, and thank you for all your contributions to our city. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, yes, sir. Come forward, please. If you would state your name, I'd appreciate it.
My name is Jeffrey Michael Field. I'm a resident of Las Cruces, residing at 2500 West Picacho. Before I begin, may these be passed out? I made copies of what I'm going to read, so for the mayor and the councilors.
Give those to the city clerk, that would be great.
As I stated, I am Jeffrey Field. I am a veteran. And before I begin, I'd like to make note that today, November 20th, and every November 20th, is Universal Children's Day, also known as World Children's Day. It was spearheaded by the United Nations in 1954, and it is considered the most universally accepted human rights treaty in history. I'm here today to advocate for a ceasefire between Israel and Palestine, two nations that have been in conflict for decades. Beginning in the mid-20th century, it is one of the world's longest continuing conflicts. This struggle has caused immense suffering for both peoples. It is time, past time, for us to seek a peaceful solution. One, I believe, must begin with a cessation of hostilities. I am here today to request you, to urge you to pass a resolution advocating for a ceasefire. I am a veteran who lost two friends in the Vietnam War. I did not see battle there. Instead, I worked stateside with those soldiers whose wounds were of the body and of the mind. And many veterans like myself were reminded of the trauma of war this past Veterans Day. Dennis Fritz, a retired Command Chief Master Sergeant in the Air Force, said this in an NPR story published November 13th. If you wish to read the story, you'll find the address in your packet. He said, "As I reflect on what's going on today in the Middle East in particular, you know, my goal is to be able to celebrate Veterans Day and not add more to Memorial Day. A ceasefire would not only bring immediate relief to those affected by the conflict, but it would also create an opportunity for diplomacy and dialogue. A ceasefire could be the first step towards a more stable and secure future for both Israel and Palestine.
Excuse me, Mr. Fields, your 3 minutes are up.
Wow.
Yeah, I know it
quick.
goes by fast. Yes, sir, and I
Okay.
appreciate you at least giving the council members copies.
Yes, and
of
you
your-
have 2 extras there.
Okay,
for you.
and
Okay.
we appreciate your service
Thank you.
to our country as well. Thank you very much, sir. Okay, so that was the second row. Oh, yes.
Good morning, Mayor Miyagashima, Mayor Pro Tem Gandara, and city councilors. My name is Frank Lopez. I call Las Cruces my home. I lived here, and then I moved to Albuquerque for like 6 years, and then I've moved back. And I'm actually here just to say thank you, actually. I've lived in some tough cities. Oakland, there's been some serious crime in Oakland. Albuquerque, some serious crime in Albuquerque, and I know many stories from those cities. Las Cruces doesn't compare to any of those. But I want to share in this moment right now of a week of Thanksgiving where so many folks are giving thanks. We just ended a campaign, and I want to acknowledge the work that you all do, the incredible sacrifices that you make. And I work, by way of my work, I should give just a tiny little bit of background. I have worked with hundreds of community leaders in 3 different states and many cities. And I have a business background. And so when I think about the work that you all have done has been so thoughtful and courageous and on another level. And so I'm very proud to be back in Las Cruces, and I'm proud to have all of you as my elected officials. And I want to thank especially those who are moving on, you know, Mayor Pro Tem Gandara, and the work you've done over many, many years with children, and Councilor Beita. I don't know you very well, but the work you do in health. And then so many of you others who speak about the issues that are happening in this community. So with that, I thank you and want to just acknowledge the incredible work that you do, and thank you for not only the work that goes into a campaign, but the work in serving as a counselor. I've listened to some of the sessions, and I'm amazed with how brutal people can be. And I just want to say that I'm with you, and lots of people are with you. So a lot of gratitude, and thank you very much.
Thanks, Frank. It's good to see you back in town, so that's good. I thought that was you, but I wasn't too sure. So, okay, so that was second row. So no one on the third row. How about fourth row? No? Fifth row? Yes. Representative Lujan, good to see you.
I'm Lynn Moorer, a resident of District 1. Thank you all for your steady, thoughtful, and usually effective public service. Today, I want to recognize and thank Mayor Miyagashima for his almost 16 years of exemplary service to Las Cruces. I also want to thank Councilor Abeta for her discerning and unstinting service to us as well. My particular gratitude today goes to my city councilor, Mayor Pro Tem Cassandra Gandara, who has represented my fellow District 1 residents and me for 8 years with honor, integrity, intelligence, and grace. Mayor Pro Tem Gandara has served not merely with diligence and incredible hard work, which has been awe-inspiring, but she has been a creative and enlightened advocate for Las Cruces and each one of its citizens. Always operating with class, she has been fearless and filled with genuine empathy when tackling problems. She has also consistently risen far above the smallness of those who habitually complain and/or verbally attack when the council makes decisions with which they disagree. Mayor Pro Tem Gondra has never just paid lip service to the highest aspirations and attributes of public service. She has gotten into the trenches to accomplish that with solid, persistent, and very compassionate work. Thank you, Cassandra. I look forward to the time when you will bring your inspired service to us all again.
Thank you, Lynn. That was very nice. Okay, so that was fifth row. Anyone else on the fifth row? Sixth row? Seventh row? Eighth? Last row. Anyone else on my left? Okay, so I'll switch to the right. Second row? Yes, ma'am. Please come forward. State your name, please. Yeah, if you could give that to the city clerk, I'd appreciate it.
I want to thank you all for letting me speak for a few minutes. My name is Arlene Martinez, and I'm a retired teacher, but most importantly, I'm a grandma of 4 kids, 3 of which play at the Hadley Sports Complex. That's what I want to talk about. Baseball, softball, and soccer provide a lot of fun for families. I mean, grandparents go, aunts and uncles, the kids, you know, we all go to support the kids there, and it is a lot of fun. There isn't a lot of entertainment, in my opinion, enough entertainment for kids. We don't have a bowling alley anymore. We don't have a skating rink. We don't have water park. We don't have bumper cars. But we do have the ball fields, and I would like to see some improvement going on over there. The children, it helps to keep them fit. It helps to keep them on track. It helps them to get good grades at school and then join the high school athletics, which is great. It provides income for our city because we have tournaments and, you know, people come, they spend the weekend here, they spend money at restaurants and so forth. So I think it's a good all-around facility for everybody, a sport for everybody. I read this from the newspaper. It says the Hadley Sports Complex is the diamond of Las Cruces facilities. It has 8 baseball fields, softball fields, all in one spot with Hardy, Paz, and Mag complexes. And it sounds good on paper, and it even looks good. In one of the pictures that I have in my packet shows an aerial view, but when you look close, it's really quite different. It's sad, in my opinion. I know that money goes into the fields. I know that the leagues pay money to join, and I'm specifically talking about the baseball, the boys' baseball. They pay $475 a season, and this year they didn't get any playoffs. They didn't get any trophies. I don't know where the money went. I broke it all down for you, and I'm not going to read each section, but over $30,875 is collected from just the boys' league. I know that since John Heffley took over the girls' softball team, they don't even charge a league fee. They only charge enough money to pay the umpires so it can be beneficial to the kids. It's supposed to be about the kids. And so they pay the umpires $25 a game, and I don't know where all this money is going to that these boys are the fees that they're getting. But I do have some pictures in my packet and talking about the flooding, and it looks really bad over there. I mean, it's embarrassing when, you know, people are coming from all over the state to play at a tournament, and we have these fields. Not to mention how poor condition that the parking lot is. Is that my time?
Yes, ma'am. It
Okay.
is, but thank you again for sharing this with us. I think, although I'd be corrected, that a lot of these monies stay with those associations that collect them. And also the bond money sometimes can't be used for the maintenance part of this. But if you don't mind later, you can leave your contact information, your email information, and we'll try to get you some answers so that we can kind of move forward from there, okay? Sir?
Good afternoon. My name is James Urias, and I was here April 17th of this year, and I've come back to just talk about what I've noticed in society in all districts, and that is a direct neglect of knowing law and of law. Incorrect training by corrupted parties causing crimes against one another. The supreme law of the land is God's law and the Constitution, not state policies, statutes, or mandates. Ignorance to law is why we have been divided as people and as a country. Today, I try to end by enforcing ratification to all laws created after the Constitution due to the errors in all government documentation. A lowercase letter cannot be a capital letter and cannot be replaced. The L for the I is a lie. Until these laws are corrected and ratified the same way the Constitution was ratified 1 year after it was written, we should be on constitutional law. And what saddens me is that wrong has become right, and being right has blinded everyone from seeing what is wrong. Never again, I hope, we will use weak individuals and let them be in control of our lives. Never again will we vote the lesser of two evils. I was raised that a cheater never wins and a winner never cheats. My family's motto is Veritas Vixat, and it's Latin for truth conquers. Words of advice as written through history. Salvation comes from those who see the damned. And when I look around and I see the attempts and the efforts that are falling short because of the confusion of the incorrect laws that should be voided due to the errors and contractual law, we are facing a situation of complete collapse. And we see it with two presidencies. You can tell a lot by an individual depending on who they think the president is. So I don't ask who the president is, because asking will not fix anything. What fixes things is talking to one another and knowing of law. Thank you.
Thank you, James. Okay, so that was the second row. Anyone on the third row? Looks like staff. Fourth row? No? Okay. Fifth row? Sixth row? Seventh row. So no one on my right. Okay, well, that concludes public participation. And now I'm going to read the longest closed meeting statement I've ever read in my 16 years. Oh, and actually my 16 years was yesterday. Yeah, because I was sworn in on November 19th, 2007. So I would actually have 16 years and 1 month, if God's willing. Okay, so closed meeting statement. Las Cruces City Council met in closed session at 11 a.m. on November 13th. The following members were in attendance: Councilors Karan, Bencomo, Graham, Gandara, and myself, Ken Miyagishima. Staff present: Ifo Pili, City Manager; Viola Perea, Auditor; Melanie Tejas, Human Resources; J.C. Borrego, HR, Human Resources; Patrick Peck, South Central Solid Waste Authority; Liam Beasley, Accounting; Linda Samples, City Attorney; Ugo Costa, Mesilla Valley Regional Dispatch Authority; Clint Thacker, Animal Services Board; Barbara Bencomo, Chief Administrative Officer; Sonia Delgado, Assistant City Manager; Adrienne Widmer, Utilities Director; Erica Hawkes, Treasurer, Ikani Tamapeo, Assistant City Manager, Dominique Rodriguez, Utilities, Bernice Navarro, Animal Services, Josie Trevino, Comptroller, Josh Saffel, Accounting, Chris Garner, Auditing, Leanne Demouche, Finance, Rosa Montoya, Animal Services, Joe Richards, Director of Human Resources, Jeremy Story, Chief, Las Cruces Police Department, Gabriel Anavis, I couldn't write his last name, Metro Narcotics, Veronica Iola, Accounting, Randy Larcher, Metro Narcotics. The meeting adjourned at 11:35 a.m. For the record, Las Cruces City Council met in closed session and only discussed those limited items as stated in the posted notice, which was to conduct an audit exit conference fiscal year 23 for the City of Las Cruces, South Central Solid Waste Authority, Metro Narcotics, Mesilla Valley Regional Dispatch Authority, and Animal Services Center of the Mesilla Valley, which was closed pursuant to NMSA Section 12-6-5 to Section 12-6-14. Okay, so now we're going to go to acceptance of the agenda.
Move to approve. Graham.
Seconded, Corin.
Motion made by Councilor Graham, second by Councilor Corrin. Christine?
This is on the motion to accept the agenda as presented. Councilor Abeyta?
Yes.
Councilor Graham?
Yes.
Councilor Bencomo?
Yes.
Councilor Cran?
Yes.
Councilor Flores?
Yes.
Councilor Gondeta?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes. Okay, so now we're going to go to item 8.1, Resolution 24-054.
Move to approve.
Second, Corin.
Motion made by Councilor Graham, second by Councilor Corrin, and Sarah Gonzalez will be presenting.
Good afternoon, Sarah Gonzalez with Community Development.
Sarah, I'll need to swear you in for the UPO part. Okay, thank you. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give is the truth and nothing but the truth under penalty of law?
I do.
Thank you.
This is a variance appeal for the property located at 4053 Winter Street. Currently, the property is located at 200 feet, about 200 feet north of its intersection of Holly Drive and Winter Street. It is approximately 0.11 acres in size, zoned R1BC, which is our single-family, high-density conditional, with a single-family residence currently on the property. Here's a zoning map of the subject property and the surrounding area. Everywhere around this property is some type of single-family, multifamily, or mobile home park, so you're looking at a residential district. Here's an aerial map of the subject property highlighted in blue towards the south portion, which is close on Winters. As you can see, the question in case is basically this carport that was placed onto the property and has been heard by the Planning and Zoning Commission. Just keep in mind that council will be reviewing another case within this district in the upcoming months. So for code requirements per Chapter 38 of the 2001 Zoning Code, R1B zoning designation properties do require a 25-foot setback for any garages or carports placed on the property from the front property line. On September 26th, the Planning and Zoning Commission denied the proposal for a 3-3 vote with one commissioner absent, based on the following findings or recommendations. The garage or carport does not meet the minimum code standards of 25 feet setback from the property line. The request for a 20-foot variance does not meet the criteria outlined within 38-10J, and it also was not constructed with a building permit. So this was after the fact in this case. Now, the criteria in which the Planning and Zoning Commission can approve a variance is threefold based on a hardship. When they look at this, a hardship can be based off of topographic constraints. Is there an arroyo? Are there hills? Is there going to be some type of drainage easement in which you could not place the structure in the appropriate place on the property? The second item in which P&Z looked at was going to be spur of economic development. That normally becomes a hardship when we look at businesses coming into town and they're looking to deviate from parking stalls. They may need sign variances, but it doesn't necessarily run with a variance directly for a carport for a residence. Lastly, could be a monetary hardship. A monetary hardship is defined as an expense that is so expensive in order to meet the intent of code or to meet code regulations that it makes the project unfeasible. It does not mean that a monetary hardship comes from structures being placed on properties, unfortunately, without those permits being issued from staff or from the city. So with that, the applicant did provide justification in order to retain the carport 5 feet from the front property line. This was an anniversary gift from her late husband. It does protect her and her vehicles from weather damage. There were no complaints from the public during the public hearing or prior to the process taking place, and the structure does not impede onto utilities. I do want to note, based on the property itself, as you can see in the site plan, highlighted in red is where the carport structure currently exists. There is a 12-foot utility easement that runs along the front of the property. There are processes in which you may encroach into a utility easement if it's approved through utilities as well as any utility provider. So that would be Comcast, Quest, Lumen, any of those who have line communications running underneath. In this case, there are Comcast and El Paso electric lines running through that utility easement. Here's an image of the structure of the carport that is currently placed within the front of the property. It is a metal carport with the 4 posts that stand alone. A metal structure is basically on top of the structure itself. With that, staff did send out notices to all the surrounding properties, and with that, we've done it twice now. We've only received 1 phone call that only had an inquiry. Their question was, if this variance gets approved and they get to keep the carport, do they get one as well? That generally becomes a consensus. And as staff had explained, a variance is specific to each property as it runs with the land. So a variance would only be good for this property. If this were to be approved or denied, they would have to go through the same process in order to acquire one. During the public hearing for P&Z on September 26th, there were 5 members of the public that did speak on the applicant's behalf, and I do believe they are here as well today. If council decides to approve the case and overturn P&Z's decision, there are conditions in which staff would like to be placed onto the property. With that, both sides of the structure to remain open. As you pull out of a driveway or a carport structure, if it is enclosed, you lose your visibility to the vehicles that are coming when you get onto the street. The second would be is that the structure needs to be attached to the home. The reason we say that is because accessory structures are not permitted within the front yard setbacks, and so we'd want that attached to the home, making it primarily an addition to that home. Next would be to reduce the size outside of the 12-foot utility easements. Knowing that there is utilities ran through there. Utility companies have no concerns or issues whenever they do have to go under concrete or they remove the driveway structure, but whenever there is a building structure, it makes it very complicated. A lot of times they need to get in and service their utilities, and that's why they're now being placed along the front as opposed to the rear or the sides of the property. And lastly, the applicant would need to obtain any building permits and required inspections to maintain that carport structure. With this, council options are to vote and approve, which will overturn the P&Z decision made on September 26th. Vote to deny, that will uphold the decision by the P&Z Commission. Vote yes with conditions, or vote to table and ask staff to find additional information. One stated the applicant is here as well as the supporting staff that came with her last time.
Thanks, Sarah. Well, it looks like we have questions from council. Councilor Flores, Gandara, and Bencomo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Ms. Gonzalez. Is there a rationale, a reason given as to why the commission did not approve the variance? Or, yeah, because we're here to listen to an appeal. So is it just they just went by letter of the law type of thing, or? I mean, it seems that if there's a variance to be had, there's different ways that it could be remediated in a sense in terms of following the things that you enumerated, right? So my question is, was all that brought up at the P&Z, and was that discussed? And the possibility of, it sounds like it could be feasible given everything you listed. Am I correct in understanding that?
Mayor, Councilor Flores, The presentation you hear today is the same, being that we are dealing with an appeal case. The P&Z Commission voted that essentially because the 20-foot deviation did not meet that criteria of those 3 hardships based on topographic constraints, monetary hardship, or spur of economic development. That is the criteria in which they have the right to approve a variance. By not seeing any of those, that is where the P&Z Commission deemed that it was not approved at that point in time.
Is it the only property that has that sort of a structure?
Mayor, Councilor Flores, there is an additional one that was heard that evening that will be coming forward to City Council on December 4th. So there were 2 cases presented that evening. Over the past 5 years, we've had 7 different variance cases come forward for carports.
In
Two of which have been approved and 5 have been denied.
Okay, but in that neighborhood, Ms.
In
Gonzalez?
this neighborhood, just the 2.
Just the 2. So, and who appealed it? The property owners appealed and you're presenting?
Mayor, Councilor Flores, yes, that is correct. The appellant is the appealing body, so the applicant is the property owner, and staff brings it forward for the appeal process.
You did list ways that the property owner can overcome that veto or that no vote, right? I mean, do this, do that, and there won't be, because it's that easement issue, I think, that the city's concerned about.
Mayor, Councilor Flores, that would be correct. Staff did not identify any safety, health, or welfare issues with the carport structure. We just did notify or notice that the 12-foot utility easement could become a problem if there were any services or line services that needed to be accessed from our utility companies, and they would have to remove that structure in order to obtain access to those. So that was the only concern that staff had. When we take it to P&Z, we provide the recommendation knowing that staff's availability to recommend approval follows the same 3 criteria, and then we present that to the Planning and Zoning Commission. Planning and Zoning Commission does have the right to say yes or no at that time. During that P&Z hearing, though, they did vote to say no based on a 3-3 vote. We were missing 1 commissioner.
But in your professional opinion and your knowledge, the things that would make it possible to have that, is that attainable? Does it, is the easement requirement, how should I say, does it eliminate any difficulty in accessing that easement? I mean, because you did say if this, or that is done. So does that remove the possibility of not being able to access the easement?
Mayor, Councilor Flores, if the structure is not to be removed or cut back, then it could make it very hard to obtain use of that easement if any of the utility companies need to go in. We just provide, from staff's point of view, an approval with conditions that if you do overturn it, you do have the right to place these conditions, and these are the concerns that staff would have if we move forward. If anyone comes into the Community Development Department, we do provide the regulations of a 25-foot setback is required at the time that they come in. So for us to justify recommending approval on a variance for a carport when it does not meet the standard is the inability that we have. That's why it goes through the public hearing process.
But if we were to, say we overturn the decision of the P&Z, would they be able to meet those requirements that you have set forward?
Mayor, Councilor Flores, I believe the applicant would address that to say that if she was willing to at least eliminate or meet those requirements to move it outside of that utility easement as she is here. So I would let her have, the speak upon if she would want to remove it as whole or if she could actually meet that requirement to remove it out of the utility easement.
And at what cost? Would she be able to afford it? Because everything is costing an arm and a leg these days.
Mayor, Councilor Flores, that's a great question as far as the cost, because when it is constructed, they do provide you a cost at when you actually pay for it. There's always the cost of removal. We have seen multiple in town that are removed after they've paid for them.
Mm-hmm.
Hence the idea that a monetary hardship is not the request of asking for you to keep it or to maintain it. It's the monetary hardship of it wasn't feasible in the beginning.
Mm-hmm. And do you have any idea how much that would cost? Is there any ballpark figure?
Mayor, Councilor Flores, I would direct maybe Larry Nichols may have a cost estimate
his
of
finger up
removing
his-
possibly Community Development Director.
Thank you. Larry Nicholas, Community Development Director. Mayor and Councilor Flores. There's two issues here. In addition to the setback requirement and being built over the easement, this structure never obtained a building permit to do the structure. A lot of this could have been avoided had that permit been acquired. We would advise them not to build over the easement. Your question regarding cost, I guess it would be somewhat of a reversal of what it cost to build to begin with. In other words, taking it down to put it back into compliance. It would probably be in a range of $2,000 to $3,000.
Thank you, Mr. Nichols. So, Ms. Gonzalez, so with all these provisions that you've provided, all these conditions, would it then be safe? I mean, would it be safe, and would there be access to that line?
Mayor, Councilor Flores, yes. At that point, because they would require a building permit and staff can actually do the proper inspections on the site, being outside of those utility easements, staff would have no concern or any issues as far as safety.
Okay, and say, for example, they have to save up to pay for the expense. Somehow I think it's going to be more than $2,000 or $3,000. I mean, everything just costs so much these days. Is there a time limit as to when they can implement those changes to comply with the requirements here?
Mayor and Councilor Flores, a lot of times we do work with the property owners, especially coming into code compliance. We work between 3 to 6 months in order to get compliance achieved.
Great. Thank you so much, Ms. Gonzalez. Thank you, Mr. Nichols. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, we have Mayor Pro Tem and then Councilor Bencomo.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Sarah, for your presentation. I have similar questions, but what really struck me and gave me pause was sight, line of sight, people coming in and out. Can you talk to me a little bit more about that?
Mayor and Mayor Pro Tem Gondara, based on the property, whenever you look at the side property lines, the reason why we request that these not be enclosed is because the minute you come to back out here, you may not see that vehicle coming down the street.
Yeah.
So by enclosing the structures, that's why we recommend any carports to remain open, as you've limited your sight view whenever you're reversing out of those properties.
So when you talk about enclosed, the top, or you mean the side, or what are you, is it enclosed? I don't see it enclosed.
Mayor Pro Tem, it's essentially, once the permit has been given for the carport structure to remain,
Yeah.
several times we do end up finding that these become enclosed on these sidewalls. And so with that, we do not want this to become a fully enclosed structure, as we are here for a carport, not for a
Got you.
garage.
Got you, Sarah. Got you. So, okay, all right. I appreciate that very much. And then you said there's going to be a second one that's coming.
Mayor Pro Tem, that is correct. We will be hearing a second case on December 4th.
Okay, all right. Thank you. Thank you. Those are all my questions, Mayor. Thank you.
Councilor Bencomo.
Thanks, Mayor. I have a couple of logistical questions. My biggest question is how this got on the radar of community development and P&Z. It's odd to be doing a whole appeal over a carport. To me, feels odd.
Mayor, Councilor Bencomo, a lot of times what happens is community development finds out because there are a few options. Neighbors in the neighborhood may have called because they were maybe told that they weren't allowed to have one, and so a new one comes up and they were not given that permission. Sometimes it is codes driving through neighborhoods, notices a new carport comes up within their district, and then so they've contacted community development. We generally see any of a carport variances coming through. I would say 80% of them are coming through after they've been constructed. And so from there, we take them through the process as if this is the application, these would be your steps, these are your fees, and that's where we make it in today. The Planning and Zoning Commission is a final action body. However, they do have the right to appeal to City Council. Right. City Council decides to deny or overturn it as well. They do have the next steps to go to District Court.
On the map of the community, I sort of clocked maybe a second one, and that might, 4093, I think. Is that the one you're talking about?
Mayor, Councilor Bencomo, yes, that is
That's what I
correct.
thought. Really, my question though is on the utility easements. You said El Paso Electric and Comcast, thank you. Is the concrete driveway not a barrier to those easements?
Mayor, Councilor Bencomo, it is a barrier, but it's not a structure. And so it's a lot easier to either bore underneath depending on where the actual lines are. So they may be able to tunnel underneath a driveway, or the removal of the concrete is easier for access. A lot of times the problem is if there's a full structure above, they have to remove all of that structure in order to get underneath or remove that concrete as well. And so the cost becomes that price. That's why a lot of the easements now are located along the front property boundary, so you're only disturbing a portion of the driveway in order for them to access it. They may not tear up the entire driveway, but it's just in case they have an access or need access to that point at a time. When I spoke with Comcast as to would they recommend structures being in utility easements, or are these a preferred establishment, they said no, because a lot of times El Paso Electric had one chance where a deck was built over a electrical easement and the power went out, and to service 3,000 people, they demolished basically that deck and did not recover the cost. And so the recommendation is not to place them in there when you know that they're actually utility connections. Sometimes we have corner lots that utilities are run along the front, but maybe not along the side. That's where we do the encroachment agreement. So the applicant can do those knowing that there's no utilities ran through there, but if they ever needed to extend it, they could.
A porch is different than literally this is just one roof, it seems like. Look, and then you said the conditions, you said they would have to reduce it. To me, that feels like the reduction would no longer serve a purpose then. The carport would no longer serve a purpose of a carport.
Mayor, Councilor Bencomo, because the carport is 20 feet deep and it's only encroaching 7, you still get 13 feet out of that structure that would be inside the 25-foot setback that's already required. Because all of the garages within this neighborhood were built to their setbacks at 25 feet. So it still gives that 13-foot extension in order to have it and then meet the utility easement request.
Okay. Honestly, I'm inclined to lean with the resident. So I will say this to the resident that, I don't know where you are, I'm sorry, that, oh, hello. That by leaving it, then it sets a precedent. And then that becomes harder and harder to enforce, right? So that's the only hard part about these appeals, is that we could be like, yeah, this looks good to me, this is fine, but then that becomes the new point. And I think that makes it really difficult for staff to move forward in the future. And so, sorry, I was distracted. Yeah, that's all my questions, Sarah. I think, oh, no, I had one more question. Is it not currently attached?
Mayor, Councilor Bencomo, no, it is not. There is a separation, but in speaking with the applicant, there is a way that she's already talked to a contractor in order to make it attached. So it could be feasible.
Oh, this is the other thing I was going to say. Is there a way for us to so it's clear that there is a lot of miscommunication between contractors and residents? Is there a way for the city that we can send out letters, memos, reminding people about the rules to contact the city before building structures and things like that? It just feels like, such a burden to residents to then have to do all of this.
Mayor and Councilor Bencomo, that we can go ahead and work with our PIO office to get those out. Another recommendation would be during district meetings, let everybody know to contact us. That's what we're here for. We open, this is all we can do, is have people come in and ask the questions that we'd like them to ask prior to coming to these cases, because they do become unfortunate. We're working with our codes office right now to also, whenever applicants come in with structures that have been built without permits, we try to find out the contact information of who's constructing them. Codes is now informing them that they need permits, they are required, and what they're actually putting these applicants or property owners through.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Did you have a question, Counselor? And before you get to that, Larry, just approximately, what would be the cost of a building permit for this? Just approximately.
Mayor Nicholas, for the record. It's based on valuation. I'm guessing that the carport probably was somewhere in the value $3,000 to $5,000. Probably the permit would be less than $85, something of that nature.
Okay, great. Thank you. Councilor Graham?
Thank you, Mayor, and thanks for all the information. So I want to lead with a quick story before I ask my question. Just coincidentally, I was looking into getting a carport like 2 weeks ago, and luckily the contractor with whom we were working knew the process, and actually, like, too sad, but I'm not going to actually get a carport because we just don't have the room for it. But without a knowledgeable contractor, and I'm just kind of echoing what you were saying, Councilor Bencomo, I could have seen me like willy-nilly putting up this carport and not realizing that I was in violation of codes. Also, thank you, Community Development. You were lovely to work with. I don't get a carport, but I'm not salty about it. It's going to be okay. But yeah, I just want to echo the idea that contractors need to be following in line, knowing the process, because I had no idea. My question for the applicant or appellant, I'm never sure what the, okay, great. Is this, are the conditions something that the appellant is willing and able to meet?
Okay, before we have you answer that, ma'am, we're going to need to have you, the city clerk's going to have to swear you in.
Okay. My name is Tracy Stevenson, and I'm the resident at 4053 Winter Street. And
Okay, she's gonna ask you the oath.
Hey, Tracy, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth and nothing but the truth under penalty of law?
I do.
Thank you.
The question was
Willing and able to meet the conditions that were laid out in the presentation?
yes.
Okay,
Yes, I am.
fantastic.
Well, I just wanted to come up and say, my husband, who had this built for me, the story was like yours. We saw these, they're going up everywhere. And by the way, there is more on our street. There's 2 more. Now, I don't know if they're in the easements or not. There's 2 more on our street and a little further down. They're behind fences and they're up front, but mine's obvious. It's right in the driveway. But my husband, we loved carports, and we would go by places. I'd be in neighborhoods. We had an automotive shop, me and my husband did, here in town. And he passed away on March the 3rd. And back in January, we had a discussion early in the morning, having coffee, and he said, come April, he said, I really want to do something special this year. And I said, you know, I plan them every year. I think it'd be nice if you did something for us this year. And he shook his head. Didn't know what he was going to do, but he obviously was thinking about it. Well, time went on, and then comes February. In February, we had a health issue in our family with our son, a heart issue, and he was taken to Dallas. And, you know, you get busy with life and you forget about anniversaries and things like that. We were very scared. My husband, we had 4 employees, and so he stayed back and he made sure that he just kind of he took care of things while I was up there with our son in Dallas. And after that, things were looking pretty good. He came through his surgery very well, and we were very blessed because cardiologist told him he had like 3 months to live, and we were at 2 months to live because he had something called a unicuspid valve replacement, and that's very rare. Like 5% of the population have that. So I could see my husband being extremely stressed, and you know, our son is our right-hand man at our shop. My husband used to say he wished we had 3 more of him. And anyways, long story short, we got through that. Come March 3rd. March 3rd comes rolling around. It's a Friday morning. we're having coffee, and we're talking about the weekend. It's a payday for our guys, and we're speaking about just what we're going to do this weekend. And then he decided to go get ready for work, and he comes back and he says, I need to sit down. I don't feel very well. And I said, yes, please sit down. What's wrong? And he says, I don't know. I can't seem to catch my breath. And I said, please sit down. I'll get breakfast ready for us. So I turned around, and not as soon as I turned around, I heard him go, and I turned around and I looked, and he was kind of slumped, and I knew. I walked over to him and I said, Roger, and there's no response, and I had Bluetooth in my ear because I was speaking to my sister earlier, and I called 911, and I knew he was gone. I don't know what happened, but they stated it was a heart attack, so he went quick. Well, we went through all the let's see what happened. Oh, that day, all of our employees lost their jobs because I couldn't run a shop, and my son didn't want it. It was just too big for him to handle. So then after that, we went through a funeral and liquidating the shop, and my husband was one of these people who, if he was going to do a big job, he always took a deposit, and so when we went to liquidate the shop, we had people telling us, well, your husband owes us money for this and this and this, and so I gave it back. I wanted my husband to leave this world with a good name. I don't want to take their money. It's not my money. So I gave them all their money back. But in the same time, I was liquidating the shop and selling parts, and we had lifts, and we had all kinds of equipment. I was able to keep our employees on for 2 more weeks, and they helped me liquidate the shop and sell them some things, and so we can pay for a funeral and all the things you do. Come April comes rolling around, and I'm home, and my world is just broken. And when Roger passed away, my income was gone, because I used to work at Albertsons. I worked there for 30 years, and I was able to put in my time there, and my husband said that he would like for me to come and work for him over there, and I was gladly. It would be something so different. So I went over there, and I ran parts, and I picked up customers. But in the meantime, while I was picking up customers, while I was going through neighborhoods, I noticed awnings, and I loved them. And if my husband was with me, I'd stop and say, "Oh, I love this one. Look at this one. Oh, I love the way that looks. Look how I don't like that one because it's sloped too far. I don't like what that one's made of. I love this one." And so instead of looking at houses and landscape, we looked at awnings, and so we were just taken by them. And if I really liked them, I'd make a U-turn and go back and sit and look at it and see how it was built. Now, the question came up whether I would put sides on my awning. No, I have no desire to ever put sides on it. It's wide open. There's no obstruction with any cars coming out. There's two little poles right there. I mean, it's as open. It doesn't even look like it's even there. It's just, the only thing is shade. That's all it is, and I have no desire to ever add on to that, because that's not something that I really am interested in. But, well, okay, so April comes along, I'm home. There's a lot of things to do and a lot of things to sort through, and I get a knock at the door, and it was a man, and he said, "We're here to put up an awning." And I said, I thought he had the wrong house. I said, "No, I don't think that's for us, for me." And he said, "No, I believe it is." He said, "Your husband prepaid an awning for you." And I said, at that moment, I cried. It was such an emotional moment. I literally almost fainted. And I just like, how did this come about? And he said, "Your husband wanted it to be a complete surprise for you." And he said, "So can we put it up for you?" And of course, I'm not even thinking about permits or anything. I didn't even know who these people were, but it was a grandfather, his son, and then his son. And I said, "Sure, yes, let's put it up. When?" And he said, "Tomorrow would be fine." So we put it up, and I was out there the whole time just watching They started at 8 o'clock in the morning and they stopped at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and it was just everything we both ever wanted. It's structurally sound, it's very close to the house. It can absolutely be attached if I needed to attach it, and that wouldn't be a problem. I would be willing to do what it takes to keep it. It's very meaningful to me. It's very special. I know the meaning behind it, and I know that he was expected to be here and enjoy it with me. And I don't have the means to, I'll be honest, when Roger passed away, my income was gone. We had one of our fleets was Sun City Plumbing. That day they came and they picked up all their vehicles. People were in and out taking their vehicles, and I could just see money just going out the window. I just like, God, there's jobs we couldn't finish. People I had to give their money back to because we couldn't finish them. And I had to bring my son back from his surgery, even though he was supposed to have 13 weeks of taking it easy. I had to bring him back because he's the only one that knew what was going on with our business more than my husband. He was his right-hand man, and he knew what had to be done. That was really hard to bring him back, but we were really careful with him. But basically, I'm just saying that I've sold some things off. I was able to give my husband a very respectable funeral. He was a veteran, and I was able to honor that and it was just something that he would have been proud of if he could see it, and had lots of support. I have family and friends just calling me daily. Have you heard anything about the awning? Have you heard anything? I'm just getting so much support. But the thing is with the awning, I'm not finished. If I'm able to keep it, I want to have it painted to match my house. I want it to, I take a lot of pride in my property. I don't let it ever falter with weeds and just junk. I love a clean, if you look at it, there's just no weeds. I'm always working on it. But I will have it attached. I will have it painted to match my home. And because when you drive down the street, it's obvious it's there. But I was looking at it the other day, and I thought if I paint it, it won't be so obvious. It would be blended in, and it would be beautiful. So I called Locates to come out and mark my property as far as where's the utilities, because that seemed to be a topic last time I was here. And they came out and they marked my property, and basically those utilities run perpendicular on my property. Don't know a lot about easements and things like that, but I did ask them a question, and the question was this: if I ever had to have anything done on this property, would this awning be in your way? And I asked them, because I waited for them. I wanted to ask because I knew I would be coming up before you all in an appeal, and I wanted to have my P's and Q's in order, and I just want to let you know that they said absolutely not. Your awning is absolutely not in our way. Like I said, if you look at it, there's two poles, and it's big and open. It's almost like it's not there. The shade, yes, is nice. It's, that's what you see. But as far as you standing in front of my house, you can almost vision it not being there, because all you have is just those two poles, and it doesn't obstruct any kind of traffic coming through. It's easy to get in and out of. But like I said, I'm just here to appeal the decision. The lady that represented my district, which was Cassandra, yes, she gave me a yes vote last time, and I was just absolutely just ecstatic about it. Thank you. And I just wanted to say, I hope that you allow me to keep it. There's two more on our street. Now, behind my street, there's like three. And I'm like maybe a mile and a half from the county line. So, because being right there, you see them a lot. And then in neighborhoods, I see them. And like I said, I could take anybody with me right now in my car, and I can take you to every property that I've seen in this town, and I can show you their awnings, and because I've seen them. And I think that's why my husband thought maybe it would be all right to have one. Now, I apologize. This is absolutely an oversight on his part. And I honestly didn't even know myself. And I'm sure a lot of people come up and say that to you, but we honestly did not know. We absolutely did not even realize this. And so I'm just wanting to say that, that's probably an excuse a lot of people use, but in our case, that was absolutely the truth. And I just hope that you can consider that I'm able to pay for my fees. I'm able to keep it up. Now, as far as taking it down, I don't know really where the money would come from for that. I really don't. I don't know what my husband paid for this.
Excuse me, sir. I'm sorry, we don't take any comments from the public like that.
This was actually voted on, and I lost by a vote, one deciding vote, because I had another lady with the same situation with an awning like mine. But honestly, I really think my awning is structurally built better because because I knew what we wanted, and this was voted on. But like I said, I lost by a vote, a deciding vote. So
Well,
I'm
thank
here to
you.
appeal
Thank you
it.
so much for
Thank
the
you.
information, and I'm so very sorry for everything you've been through.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you.
So, just for clarification, no.
Oh, do I leave?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh.
So just for clarification, as Sarah was mentioning, it's very possible a neighbor could have seen it, someone from Coes was driving by, someone who didn't get a carport reported to the city, then probably Codes went out there and it went up the chain, it probably went to community development, then Sarah, and then they probably contacted the applicant. They said, listen, you didn't get a permit, so you've got to go to planning and zoning. Planning and zoning says no, or 3-3, and then it gets appealed to us. That's how it came up here. Okay, so there's a few other people that wanted to speak, I understand. Raise your hand, please, who wanted to speak? Just 1, 2, 3? Okay, I have here Sarah Volko, Vicky Morgan, Lindsay Ray Jennings, James Allen, and/or Brent Stevenson. Are any of them here? All but 2. Okay, well, the 3 that I called then. If you want to come forward, and Christine has to give you the oath.
Hi, my name is Vicky Morgan.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give is the truth and nothing but the truth under penalty of law? Thank you.
I am here on behalf of Tracy, my dear friend since grade school, to attest to her impeccable character and the extraordinary circumstances surrounding the awning in question. Throughout our years of friendship, Tracy has consistently shown herself to be an individual of outstanding character. She possesses a rare combination of qualities that can only be described as extraordinary. She is caring, always placing the needs and concerns of others above her own. She exudes positivity even when faced with challenges that would overwhelm many. Her resilience, her generosity, and her kindness are qualities I have witnessed firsthand for many years. The awning, which stands at the heart of dispute, represents more than just a mere structure to her. It was one of the last gifts given to her by her late husband before his untimely passing. Every time she looks at it, she is reminded of the love they shared and the memories they created together. It's a testament to their bond and an emblem of the life they built. While some may view it as just an awning, for Tracy it holds profound sentimental value. Beyond the emotional significance, the financial burden of removing the awning would be undue and harsh, especially given the heartache she has already endured. I kindly request that you consider the exceptional circumstances of this case. Removing the awning would not only be financially expensive for Tracy, but would also mean erasing a tangible reminder of her husband. I sincerely hope that a compassionate resolution can be reached in this matter, taking into account both the character of my dear friend and the significant emotional implications of removing such a treasured memento. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Ms. Morgan. And just one quick question. Are you a neighbor? Do you live on that street or?
No, we've been friends since grade school.
Okay, Thank you.
And grew up junior high, high school, just good friends.
Okay. Are you a Bulldog or a Trojan?
Mayfield Trojan. Yeah, Mayfield Trojan.
Okay, so next,
Hello, good afternoon.
Can you state your name?
Yes, Brent Stevenson.
Brent Stevenson. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give is the truth and nothing but the truth under penalty of law?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, council members, mayor. I won't take too much of your time. This issue was brought up, well, a little less than a year ago. My mother, she went outside to the car and she slipped and she fell. Afterwards, me and my dad, we were talking one night, and he was talking about nodding, and I told him, I think it's an amazing idea. That's great. I mean, for a guy that always wants to keep his family safe, and I think everybody knows about that. I think you know, he was acting out of his heart. This is all something that I know if he knew he was supposed to get a permit, he would have. He followed the rules. He was one of those people that if he was here today, he would be up here talking instead of me. But I do hope that you grant my mother the ability to access a permit and keep her hunting. So thank you very much.
thank you, Brent, and again, our condolences on your passing of your dad. Say, who's next? Yes. Are you Lindsay or Sarah? Okay. So Christine will give the oath.
Hi, Sarah.
Hi.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth and nothing but the truth under penalty of law?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
My name is Sarah Volko. I am a regional project manager for the state of New Mexico. I worked for City of Las Cruces, Public Works Department. David Maestas, David Cedillo, worked for both of those gentlemen. Also worked in joint utilities for Adrian Widmer for a period of time. So a licensed commercial contractor, civil engineering is my background. So construction is not something I'm uncommon to. So Tracy Stevens called me. She's a friend of the family, and she called a few months ago saying, hey, I got this thing on my door. Can you help sort through this? I'm not understanding what I'm in trouble for. I said, oh, absolutely. I was more than happy to help this family. They're such a upstanding family in this community. And took a look at it and said, okay, yeah, I see there's some problems here. And for me, it's about due diligence. It's about checking facts. It's about seeing where things are. Is it feasible? Is it not feasible? I do $1 million feasibility studies. My structures are anywhere from $30 to $50 million per structure. So having said that, this is kind of a smaller thing than what I'm used to looking at, but all the same, utility easements, setbacks, things like that are still something that we deal with even on large-scale construction. So for me, it was about kind of reverse engineering this thing, because I knew she'd be coming and speaking to zoning committee and finding out. And when we came to the zoning committee, I was expectant to see technical drawings. I was expectant to see utilities, things that were problematic to the city. I was expecting to see that information, and that wasn't presented to us. So after the hearing, the big word was the easements, the utility easements. And at that hearing, I did ask the question is, if the situation comes up that some infrastructure is coming in that needs access to that utility, could she sign a paper with the city saying, hey, I'll have this thing removed at that time if it ever becomes a problem? This is something we do with school campuses. We often get land that's raw land that hasn't been developed in those areas, and there's easements on these raw pieces of property. And we tell these districts, we say, yeah, we'll build over that easement, but you have to resume the cost of remove and replacement of that portion of the building if this becomes something, because we never know. These are undeveloped parcels of property. In Tracy's situation, I went out there and looked at everything, and it's fully developed neighborhoods in all the proximity of her area. So I don't see any new infrastructure coming in. The next thing that was important to me was to call out locates to find out exactly what was in that easement. And it is in one of our exhibits in the packet. You will see that everybody that didn't mark on that paperwork, it is there, not there. So there was sewage, there was electrical, there was water, and you can see the water meter there, and then there was also gas. And those utilities are on one side of her property, and they are just to tie into her home. There is nothing going this direction. That is all in the street. And I have the actual locates. I have confirmation on that. It's not my hearsay telling you that it's that way. I called it out because I wanted to know. Because of my background in the construction industry, I want to advise my friend correctly. I don't want to tell her, oh, just let's go to the hearing, let's do this, let's do that. And we've got her footing sitting on top of an electrical line. That would be unfair to her and that would be unfair to the community as a whole. And so I like to look at things fully when we look at something. And so from what I can see, I think it's a case where it's something that could be approved, and it's something that wouldn't harm anybody. And after looking at her property, she lives very close. I have to drive down Elks Drive to get to her property. So I took a little cruise through the neighborhoods in Elks Drive, and there were hundreds of awnings. Same case scenario, apples to apples comparison. We're not talking apples to oranges. Some are apples to oranges, some are terrible, and some are not as close to the property line. Some were closer to the proximity to city infrastructure than hers was. And they were older structures. I stopped and spoke with one gentleman, and his structure was there, and he said, yeah, he didn't have anything to take his down, and it was staying as far as he was concerned. So I see that there's a lot of these in the neighborhoods already, and I think in this situation where it wasn't necessarily Tracy setting this up for this to happen, it's somebody who's no longer here. And I feel like she's taking the brunt for all of it. And that's really hard to watch my friend go through the things that she's gone through. And I think if there was ever a scenario where it's a situation where we get to actually bring an ethical view to construction, I think this would certainly be the case. And I definitely appreciate your all's consideration to this situation and their family and the meaning that this carport has to them. But that's my background as far as what I've seen and what I could see. And certainly if I felt like this was a harm to the community or the public in any way, I would be the first person to voice that opinion. Friendship or no friendship, and Tracy would be behind me on the same way as that, is that we wouldn't want to harm anyone or anything. And so thank you for your consideration.
No, thank you.
I actually have a question, Sarah. Sarah? Right. Yes, sorry, can you come back, please? Can I ask a question? Sorry.
Yes,
so you're referring to the locates report in Exhibit A, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And I have never seen one of these locates reports before, but it looks like CenturyLink says cleared. So I don't know if I misunderstand what cleared means or what this report means, but it also says El Paso Electric says cleared, so.
Yeah, so she has her utilities that are hooked up to that. So you probably have about 20 different people. And which ones tell you that they're not cleared?
Well, the city of Las Cruces says that it was marked, and some
Right.
say UFO cleared, which I don't know what UFO cleared means either. UFO? I don't know. So I'm curious.
Yeah, so anything that has a utility, they will actually come out and mark that for us. And the reason for that is if we're going to be digging in that area, then they will come in and they will mark it. If they don't come in and mark it and they mark it as a cleared, that means we're good to go. We're good to dig.
So
We can dig at that point.
Sorry,
Yeah.
other Sarah, sorry.
Oh, yeah? Did you need me or no?
I just wondered, so,
Mayor, Councilor Karan, so I had the same question when I received the report from the applicant or the appellant whenever I received it. That is why I reached out to Jason Zeal with Comcast. He actually did a site check and said that one of the carport structures that was constructed is about 6 inches away from his line. So there is Comcast that does run through the properties on this site plan. They're essentially running this direction from north to south. And on the private side, when I was doing a subdivision, I learned exactly how they were actually installing these utilities. So El Paso Electric will go 6 feet down, they will put a layer or a foot of dirt, and then Comcast will come in on top. They're now putting them to where they're in the same trenches. And so they're actually utilizing this space in order to put them in. The applicant in December did provide the pictures of where Comcast and El Paso Electric had been marked on her property. And so they would run parallel through these properties in that 12-foot utility easement.
So the locates is, I just don't
The
understand
clearing
what
of the locates just meant that they actually went out there and did their process. So that is just to tell 811 that they have completed their process.
Okay. No, that's very helpful. Thank you. So there isn't a report there isn't a report that reflects that 6-inch thing?
They have to mark their actual, where those utilities are, they have to actually mark them so that I don't hit them with a backhoe. That's the whole idea of my locates. So if El Paso Electric is someplace other than what they marked, we're in a lot of trouble. But I've never seen locates lie to me like that. Locates has always been truthful because if I have a backhoe out there, I don't need to hit an electrical line with a backhoe. That'll kill someone. So they're not gonna deviate from that for me. So electrical lines were shown from the street through her property to her house.
If I can. Tim Pitts, I'm Deputy Director for Community Development. Mr. Mayor, Councilor Coran, the clear means that there is nothing in that particular easement. That's them saying, that's the utility saying to the developer, there's nothing there for you to hit. If they don't put
Excuse
clear.
me, Dr. Pitts, I'm sorry for interrupting.
I need to swear in.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth and nothing but the truth under penalty of law?
I do.
Thank you.
So yes, that's correct. That means that there is not in this one. I think Sarah's talking about the other one that has that it is and it's within. Okay, well, we know what this report says, and it says clear. And if it says clear, it means they don't have any. So, but I guess the point I would make on this is, under city code, you are not allowed to build a building in an easement. So what you would be doing is retroactively allowing them to do something you would never have allowed prior to if they came in before.
Yes.
So
which
that's
I
all
understand.
I'm making sure.
I know that's our gig here.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Do you have any further questions?
No.
Okay,
I
thank
don't
you.
believe so.
Well, I have-
Okay, so did you have a question for Sarah?
Not for Sarah, neither Sarah, but I do have a comment for Dr. Pitts and Mr. Nichols and anybody else in the world who should be responsible. Now, my question is this. If the home buyer isn't given notice that there's an easement on their property, because that's really an easement on the property that they paid for, right? How can you hold them accountable? Is it the contractor then? Was it the gentleman who knocked on her door? Does he have to be sworn in again?
No,
Okay.
he doesn't.
Is my question clear,
Yes,
Dr.
ma'am.
Pitts?
Mr. Mayor, Councilor Flores, anytime you purchase property, you are usually given at least a plat of survey or some sort of document that shows that to you. But it is your obligation as a home buyer, as a property owner, to know what easements are on your property.
But they don't offer that in high school or college or anywhere I went to. I mean, how do you?
Understood.
I bought several houses and I've never understood, I've never been given that information. Is it something
So then
that
I'll
is a burden on the home buyer?
I'll give advice to any potential home buyer. Please get a survey of your property. Even if it's an older one, please have it available to you, because you will learn a lot about that you're going to want to know when it happens. So.
This is a good PSA right now.
Yeah. Right.
So then this information, I think it was one of my colleagues up here who said that we have to have more information about this. I don't know. I mean, I certainly didn't know. I'm not looking to put a carport or anything like that, but I just think that, so the onus is on the property owner. And then we have people doing this business. Shouldn't there be an onus on the person who, or the business that's offering to do that work?
Mr. Mayor, Councilor Flores, and I'll let Sarah answer just a second. Yes, absolutely. Contractors are certified by the state of New Mexico to do their work. They know perfectly well when they need a permit and when they don't. The fact that they say they don't is them lying to you. That is not them not knowing, it's them lying to you.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Pitts.
Mayor, Councilor Flores, I would just expand on that. A lot of times when we do work with property owners, a lot of the older part of towns, they don't have surveys, and so we go and request them to go and get them to understand what's on their property, where their boundary lines are. Property pins are not clearly marked. Sometimes they are unaware of it. It's the education going from the time that you purchase your home, working with realtors, working with community development, working with different people to educate our public and knowing what is on your property, what you can do, and what are the limitations.
So, excuse me, did you just say that the seller of the home, who has to provide that information? I mean, at what point does it become, for whom, who has that duty? To whom is a duty owed, or who has the onus of getting that information to the home buyer?
I would say owner.
And then what if it's a private sale between two owners? I mean,
Mr. Mayor, Councilor Flores, you're absolutely right. If it's a private sale between two people without professionals involved, it can be very problematic this way. It is the obligation of the seller to provide title. They are supposed to provide title to the buyer. That means giving to the buyer an abstract of the entire title, what in real estate law is called the bundle of rights, what it is you're getting. When you get a warranty deed, that is the seller warranting that what they're giving you is yours and there's no cloud of title.
It's fee simple.
I'm sorry?
It's called fee simple? Absolutely.
In fee simple, yes. That would be the if you have the full bundle of rights, it would be in fee simple. And so, yeah, who's obligated to do that? Generally, it's the seller, and usually that's done through the title company. And the title company gives you you're absolutely right. When we get into contracts in which you're doing this family member to family member, friend to friend, it gets more complex. But again, just my little PSA here for using professionals. Please, lawyers, realtors, bankers. They serve a very good purpose in our world, and please make use of them.
Thank you, Dr. Pitts, and thank you, Sarah, Ms. Gonzalez.
Okay, so there's no Lindsay Ray Jennings that wishes to speak, nor James Allen. Okay, is there anyone else that wanted to speak? Okay, so just a couple things here. So, Councilor Flores, since you want to do the PSA, so I think it's the ranking of title goes, the best is the warranty deed, and then it drops to a special warranty deed, and then a quitclaim deed. So, but yeah, you buy land, especially if it's a private sale, you want to make sure that the land's not contaminated, because once you buy it, then you're going to be responsible for cleaning it up with the EPA. Okay, so the reason why I asked Larry the price of the permit is because I think this is something here that the future city council needs to do. Oh, before I go there, the permit is also, or the setbacks is also needed for a couple things. One, also that's why they have a rear setback, so that it's not too far, so that if there's a fire, the fire department, the firemen and women firefighters can go there and put out the fire. So I'm just gonna take it for granted, Chief, you don't see any problem with with this being how it is right here, as far as the setback not being what it should be. I won't put you on notice, but I'll just say I don't think it's a problem. But, and then also the aesthetics for the neighborhood. You know, that's one thing there that we have to be cognizant of, that neighbors, they're gonna think, well, you know, I didn't realize you could allow carports, and then you have these. Most likely, I'm gonna support it being allowed, but there are a couple things that I think that this council in the future needs to maybe think about doing. The reason why I asked Larry for the cost is, and you kind of hit on this, Councilor Flores, is because if the council doesn't do it, people are going to keep doing this. So maybe the council should consider, for those that haven't pulled the permit, maybe they pay, and we can't do it now. That's ex post facto in the future. Maybe 5 or 6 times what the cost of the permit would be to the applicant, and then also to the one who installed it 5 or 6 times as well, whatever council deems necessary. So that's like 10 times more the $85. That's $850 in a way, a penalty for doing that. So that way there, it hopefully will deter that. And also from the contractor point of view, they're gonna say, you know what, we gotta pull the permit because I don't wanna pay 5 times more or whatever the council, you know, future council decides, 5 or whatever more. So just something to think about. Yeah, I would have a hard time having the applicant tear it down, especially the way, and I appreciate the story that you presented, Ms. Stevens. Again, our condolences on your loss. I mean, I wondered how it happened, but yeah, so. But I really think that this is something our council should really consider if that's to move forward in the future. Yeah. Because if not, you're just gonna have these proliferate throughout the neighborhood. So, yeah. Any neighborhood. You have a comment? No. Okay, so that concludes. Was there anything more, Sarah? Okay, so just to clarify, to vote yes would be to overturn the decision, and to vote no would be to uphold the decision. Is that correct? Okay, so to vote yes to overturn, that means allowing them to keep the carport?
Okay, so if there's a difference between yes and yes with conditions, what is the number? It's a number thing? Okay, yeah, I guess that's what I want.
Oh, with conditions.
That would just be an amendment.
Were the conditions that was presented, did you want to review those again, please? The conditions?
Mayor Pro Tem, councilors, the conditions, if it were to be approved and reverse the decision made by the Planning and Zoning Commission, would be that both sides of the structure remain open. The structure does need to be attached to the single-family residence. To reduce the side outside of the 12-foot utility easement, unless you would like to remove that as an option, or must obtain a building permit and required inspections.
Oh, sorry.
Yes,
I would like to, if we could approve the conditions without the utility easement, I would like to advocate for us to do that if we can, given that it seems like the utilities aren't actually located there. So I would move to amend it in that way, amend the conditions and the resolution to include these conditions.
Okay, so for clarification, Councilor, you want to just remove the third bullet point?
Yes, the third bullet.
Just remove it completely?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Second that.
Mayor and councilors, if I may, if we do remove to reduce the outside of the utility easement for the 12 feet, staff would then recommend that the applicant obtain an encroachment agreement into those utility easements in case there is ever a time or a need that utilities does need to go in there and actually remove that structure and put in the utilities for that neighborhood.
Okay. Would I need to amend it to include that, or would that be part of the permitting that would have to happen anyway?
It is actually part of the amendment in the sense that that way we just have it onto the record of knowing that that would be the next steps, because that is an additional cost to the applicant.
So instead of getting rid of that condition, we could say include an encroachment agreement in the permit.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I move that to amend the thing in that way. Sorry, what were you gonna?
Second.
I have a
Okay,
question.
so hold on just a second. So been moved by Counselor Corrin, second by Counselor Graham, that on the third bullet point to include an encroachment agreement. Okay, all right, so moved in second. Counselor
So-
Flores, you have a question?
Yes, I do. Sarah, Ms. Gonzalez, what is the encroachment potential? If we were to reduce the size to outside, whatever, what is so her property would be encroaching the easement, is that correct?
Mayor, Councilor Flores, normally through the building process, if somebody would like to encroach into a utility easement, we require them to get an encroachment agreement.
And what does that consist of?
That consists of contacting all of the utility departments, getting them to sign and notarize, as well as the applicant. It goes through our department. We work with land management to create that encroachment agreement and have it on file. The applicant applies for that, and then she's able to keep the structure within that easement with the knowledge of knowing that if something or utilities need to go in, that the structure may have to be removed in order for them to install it, depending on the circumstance.
Ooh la la.
So it gives the option of still being able to maintain the carport as it is now, with the understanding that if utility infrastructure does need to go in within that 12-foot utility easement that is designated for utilities, then they would have to remove that structure in order for them to put it in. Doesn't mean it's the case. They may not have to go in and install at any point in time. It just leaves that as an open option, being that is the only place located in this subdivision is the front 12-foot utility easement on all of these properties.
And removing the encroachment, the burden of paying for it would be on the homeowner?
Mayor, Councilor Flores, that is correct.
It could be a lot of money, potentially a lot of money.
It could be either removing the structure, it could be replacing it, but that would be the same condition you would place on it if it had to be cut back from the 12-foot utility easement now.
Right. Thank you so much, Ms. Gonzalez. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Sarah, right now, it's just, did you say who's in there, Paso Electric and Comcast, or?
Based on the pictures that I was able to see, there is Comcast and El Paso Electric. It doesn't necessarily mean that Lumen won't come in or any other telephone company, any future development.
But however, it is possible that they could just put a conduit underneath the, I mean, they don't have to break it up, but I think this would be applicable, Councilor Flores, if, let's say, there was a water line through there or a sewer line, and then it broke, and the city needs to go in there and fix it, then that's when they break it up. And that's, but since there's not that there, the chances are slim, although there is that very minute possibility. Yeah. Okay, so that's moved in second, and Dr. Fitz, yeah, I know. I like it, because he doesn't back down from you, so.
Tim Pitts, Mr. Mayor, 98% chance there will be no need to do it. I think we're pretty confident they're not going to come in, and if they do, they'll bore under. It's not an issue. And the agreement is there because there is property rights by utility companies in that 12 feet, and they do have the right to know what we're doing there when it's against our code.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Pitts. Okay, so we've been moved in second on the amendment. So this is on the amendment. Christine?
This is on the motion to amend Resolution 24-054 to add in bullet number 3 that they will obtain an encroachment agreement. Councilor Abeyta.
Yes.
Councilor Graham.
Yes.
Councilor Bencomo.
Yes.
Councilor Cran.
Yes.
Councilor Flores.
Yes.
Councilor Gandara.
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes. Okay, now we're on the main motion. Is there any questions on this? Members of the public? Seeing none. Christine?
This is on the motion to approve Resolution 24-054 as amended. Councilor Abeyta.
Yes, number 3 with conditions?
Yes. Councilor Graham.
Yes.
Councilor Bencomo.
Yes.
Councilor Cran.
Yes.
Councilor Flores.
Yes.
Councilor Gandara.
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes. Okay, and we may want to get some communications out on this, just to, and, okay, next item is 8.2, Resolution 24-055.
Move to approve. Second.
Who made the motion to approve? Councilor Abeyta, second by Councilor Bencomo. Okay. And Dominique Rodriguez?
Good afternoon, Mayor, Councilors. My name is Dominique Rodriguez, Assistant Utilities Director. Before you is a resolution to approve the updated rate-setting process. Just as a background, as you know, utilities is an enterprise fund, meaning that we function like a private company. Revenues are received by the rates that our customers pay. Utilities is treated Utilities is treated similar to any other utility in the city, pays franchise fees and taxes to the city. In addition, transfers to shared services, which include human resources, purchasing, and legal. City of Las Cruces owns the utility and adopts our budget. The Utilities Department reports to the Utilities Board, and once the council adopts the budget, Utilities Department and the lines of business complete its mission via the board. Utilities Board discussed the rate-setting process over work sessions and meetings, and in September 2023 approved Resolution 24-LCU-008, recommending to Council the approval of a revised rate-setting process. The rate-setting process is outlined in 8 steps. We've broken them out. Number 1, establish the requirement for a rate review. Rate reviews are broken out into 2 groups and performed in phases. Number 2, select a consultant through a request for proposal process through our purchasing program. Number 3, perform a rate review study where the consultant follows the financial criteria, which is attached with the rate-setting process. Number 4, results are presented to the Utilities Board, normally during a work session. Number 5, the board facilitates public input through a set comment period. This was revised during the work session, as this was previously done through the Utility Customer Advisory Group, otherwise known as the UCAG. Number 6, the final report, which is the consultant's report, summary of public outreach, is presented to the Utilities Board to make a recommendation to City Council. Number 7, City Council will receive the Utilities Board recommendation, the consultant's report, summary of public outreach in order to make a rate decision. Council can change the time frame of any rate adjustment option. Council approves a rate adjustment or remands back to the Utilities Board with strategic guidance. Number 8, tariff approval. Once rates are approved by Council, the tariffs are revised and presented at the next available Utilities Board meeting for approval. If the revised rate-setting process is approved, it includes the Utility Board's authorization to approve annual rate increases. If a rate option is approved in a phased-in adjustment, it is approved for a set period of time. Our last rate adjustments were approved over 3 years. Once this 3-year period, or whatever the phased-in adjustment period is done, staff will review the revenue requirement and make a recommendation to the Utilities Board not to exceed 5%. This will be done until the next full rate review is completed. If a full implementation adjustment is approved, which means that the full rate adjustment will occur that right away or that next month or when the tariffs are approved, staff will review the revenue requirement and recommend an adjustment based on the Consumer Price Index to the Utilities Board. This would be done during the budgeting process, so if an adjustment is approved, those rates would take effect in the new fiscal year. This is important because during the rate review, we use a test year. That includes the most recent audited data and any known and measurable changes for a year. So if a rate adjustment is phased in, we then are behind by those years that it is phased in. Small adjustments made throughout the years are better than large adjustment recommendations during a full rate review. Staff has researched other utilities and found variations of this are common. And with that, I will stand for any questions.
Okay, before I give this to my colleagues, let me just give you a little bit of background, because I'm probably the only one here when this was put in place by Dr. Jorge Garcia. So Dr. Garcia came to us years ago, and he says, you know what, I want to do this utilities advisory group made up of citizens. By doing so, he felt that, you know, we're all elected by the public, of course, and we're accountable to the public. But he felt that by having the citizens out there that we could choose from different areas, not elected, it's like government of them. You know what I mean? It came from the neighborhoods, from the different parts of the city. And also because it's pretty technical and wanted to have some consistency on there. And so this group was really relatively new at that time, this concept. And so this utility group, the UGAG, CAG, it was something there that was, I thought, working well. But from what I understand, is he wanted to do away with that and allow the utilities board to make that call. Now, I can tell you, and I'm just looking to the future, if there's a time where the utilities goes up 4%, 4.5%, because it says anything over 5%, and they pass it, they're gonna have people come into this council chambers wanting to know why you all allowed that, and then you're gonna have to respond saying, well, we gave the authority to them, and they're gonna say, well, they're not accountable to the public. You guys are. So I just want to give you both sides. I don't think I would be supporting, I know I'm not going to be voting for this, because I don't think that, I mean, that's why we have the citizens board, so that we can tell the residents when they come forward, say, you know what, we put people from your neighborhoods on this board for that reason. They're not politicians, they're not elected officials, they're people who want to serve their community and have went to great lengths to learn about this, and they're listening to the presentation. You know, Dr. Garcia and his team they weren't putting them in a headlock saying, you got to vote for this, you know? It was, if they thought this was good, then bring it forward. If not, well, then don't. That's why I think that I won't be supporting this, and I just feel that, unless I'm wrong, that I think that's what they're wanting to do, is take that opportunity away and let them be able to do that and take away the responsibility from City Council. Councilor Bencomo.
Thank you, Mayor. As you all know, I as well as Councilor Abeyta, sit on the Utilities Board. And I think, Mayor, I agree with you. Isn't that crazy?
Can you repeat that?
No. The only thing I don't agree with you on is that I think we can make an amendment today. And I say that because ultimately we have to remember that our utilities is an enterprise. Our utility literally only makes money to be self-sustaining. As our city grows, so are our utility needs. So will ensuring the safety of not only our workers, but our community members, that will grow. And we have to make sure that they have the funds. Now, unless we're willing to give them money from the general fund, that's a different question, right? But I think to me, it's just been very obvious that we don't like it, but rates have to increase because our city is growing. And it just depends on how we do that, right? So when we discussed this at the board, unfortunately, there was an abrupt end to the conversation, and so we couldn't make some of these suggestions before they came to you all. But I guess that's, to me, so if we vote no today, if this dies today, it would go back to the board, right? Which could happen, or we could amend it today, correct? And I think for me, that feels more important to do, because the longer we wait on making it this kind of decision, the more impact it will have on our utility, and the more impact that will have on our customer base. And so to me, that's really important. Now, Dominique, can you go back to page 6? So this, because what I see here, if phased-in adjustment is approved, LCU board can approve an annual increase not to exceed 5%. What it says on the packet is different. It says under tariff approval, under C, annual rate increase, if phased-in adjustment is approved, a LCU board has the authority to approve an annual increase, not to exceed 5%. And I think to me, that's where I agree with the mayor in that the responsibility lies within this body, right? I think we take the recommendations of the board, and ultimately those rate increases, especially if significant, ultimately are the responsibility of this governing body. And so to me, I would at least like to make a amendment here that says the LCU board can, with approval from the council, can approve an annual increase not to exceed 5%. Okay, so that would be one of my amendments. And my other amendment would be around, and you actually said it too, Dominique, but it's not in here, around the 3-year phase-in. Can you repeat that again?
Mayor, Councilor Bencomo, so if the rates are phased in, and I think you're referring to, a phased-in adjustment is approved for a period of 3 years, which was done with our water, wastewater and gas rates. Because we review the revenue requirement and do a test year, which is a year out of known and measurable changes, once that 3rd year is complete, things have happened in those years that were not brought up in the rate review, which means we are essentially 3 years behind in the collection of rates. That was very apparent during COVID. Inflation rose up. Every year, annual salaries and benefits are increased, and so when the rates are phased in over 3 years, we may have captured the next year after the test year, but then year 2 and 3 after that are no longer included because we don't know what those are going to be if council will approve them, and we for sure didn't know what that inflation was going to be when COVID hit. Is that what you are referring to?
No, actually, it's not.
Okay.
But I'm actually glad you explained that again. No. I actually think, honestly, the other thing for me that I remember thinking about during our meeting, and I don't know if you remember this, for me was the transparency issue of it all, right? And ensuring that when we are making these decisions, like in the 2 bullet point in here, in full implementation, if full implementation adjustment is approved, LCU board can approve an annual increase based on consumer price index. For me, my amendment would be with adequate and thorough public input added to that, right? And we can be like, yeah, well, of course we will do that. But I guess for me, it's critical that we are explicit about that. So that's my second amendment. Did you write it down?
I did, but I'm still going to need you to stay in.
Okay, I can do that. But honestly, for me, if those changes happen, I will be supporting this again because the fact that we are a self-sustaining utility and we have to ensure that they're able to do their jobs.
Well, when you said you're supporting it, that means that you're going to.
With the amendments.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Okay, I think, so.
Yeah, if the
So basically, you're just, do we need to even do that then? I mean, I would think that you would just have us do well, I don't know, I'll leave it to the city attorney here. I don't know if we need to have because right now, they need city council approval to raise the rates. So, yeah, this is taking it away, is what it's doing.
The current language, you feel like is taking that away.
Oh, it is?
Correct.
Absolutely.
I'm trying to add that back in with an amendment.
But it hasn't been removed yet. So if we just vote this down, then we're there. Nothing's changed.
No, because they still need a rate process. This process still needs to be implemented.
Is that, Adrian, is that the case?
Hi, Mr. Mayor. Adrian Woodmer, Utilities Director. Maybe there's a little bit of confusion here. There will be the whole normal rate process with the input where the utility board is the one that's actually going out, gathering that information, coming back, getting the information, putting it together. Then there's going to be a recommended rate increase. That will be brought to council. Council has the opportunity, as they have in the past, of saying either we'll go ahead and implement the rates all at once, or previously you all have approved rates based on percentages over the next 3 or so years, which is what Dominique was referring to. That all stays the same. The only thing that would be slightly different is that on a yearly basis, utility staff will go ahead and take a look at that and see where we are at, much like Councilor Bencoma was talking about, is that when that 1 year comes up afterwards, because we're already now behind a little bit, that 5%, we were saying, can it be something that the board can approve automatically? And that's where, if I'm not understanding correctly, please correct me, and that's where Councilor Bencoma was like, I would rather utility staff come up and say, okay, if it is phased in, the 5%, we make that recommendation, then we bring it to the board after the board says, yes, we are recommending that, and you all still have to make the decision on that. I believe that's what Councilor Bencoma was saying.
Okay, so are you saying that if we do these amendments, that the UCAG will still stay in existence, or it will go away?
Mr. Mayor, that is the one thing, is that in this particular one, the ones that are acting as the UCAG from then out is actually going to be the utility board. This last go-around, when we did all of the rates, by the time we got to the very end of the rates, because the UCAG, you bring them on, and you go through all 4 utilities. Well, by the time we got to the very last utility, the UCAB that already understood everything, they all left. And we were left with a bunch of brand-new people on the very last stuff, and it was very difficult to get them trained up, get them figured out what's going on, and that's where it made more sense for perhaps the utility board that is always consistent to do that outreach. So the outreach will stay the same. It'll just be completed by the utility board and staff as opposed to the UCAG.
So I liked how you put it. So basically, the UCAG kind of morphs into the utilities board. So basically, it does go away. I mean,
Yes, that is correct.
It does go away. So, so then the utilities board becomes the UCAG.
Correct.
Well, the reason why I can't support that is because in its own little mini way, having those 5 members of the public is like taking 5 people from public participation and saying, hey, come here and look at this stuff. What do you think? You're the one, you're a ratepayer. Are you gonna support the, is this something here that makes sense? Or is it, what I think the future council needs to look at is just to make sure it doesn't look like, wow, this was already a done deal. That's by having just, we're pulling people from the public here. They're not, they give us an application, and the mayor, with the advice of council, approves those members. But I think that it's important that people from the public be allowed to serve on this UCAG. Maybe down the road, pay them a little bit of money, $100 a meeting. I have no idea.
We do that with the utilities board is majority members of the public.
Yeah, but still, there's still council.
There's only 2 people who aren't actually.
Yeah, but they get intimidated by you and Councilor Abeta.
Yes, we're super intimidating.
Yeah. It's like what you say goes, so, but really, I mean, that's just my, I just think that it's good that we still have that UCAG. That's my thinking, but, I mean, I appreciate your compromise on there. I guess I can think about it.
I think my colleague on the utilities board also wants to.
Councilor Abeta.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm also in support of the amendments brought forward. I think when we've had these discussions at the utilities board, there has been a bit of a concern that, council is ultimately responsible for any sort of fiscal items. And I do hesitate to turn that over to a different entity, especially as we've seen, this year, a little bit of issues with different types of boards. Now, I will say the utilities board is well-versed and trained, and so I think it has a really great high-quality standard as it needs to be. But in the future, that could be an issue. So I do think it is up to the council itself to really make sure that it is the ultimate decision maker within that. So I am in support of both of the amendments, and I think adding the language with the public comment, that full and thorough, it would be able to grasp what we need from the public in those ways. Thanks.
Okay, no, I appreciate it, and I appreciate the amendments. I just thought of something. How many people are on the UCAG? 5? 5? And how many people are on the Las Cruces Utilities Board, in addition to the 2 council members?
Mayor, there's 7.
7?
7 commissioners.
How about in the future, considering if, again, like I said, I won't be here next year, so maybe add just, right now, the other 5 members, they all have to have certain backgrounds, if I remember correctly. They have to have certain, or you can't serve on there. How about if the council in the future expands that to 9? 2 more people, and they don't have to have that background, so that you have those people from the public who may not be an engineer, who may not be, an attorney, who may not have those certain qualifications. Then that way there, I would feel better, and you have members of the public at least being able to just, serve their community. They don't have to have that technical expertise that a lot of them that they're required on the current utilities board. And I think it would be a way to, let the public share in some of their concerns.
Sure, the conference table's not big enough, for sure. That'll be a problem. Or we also expand the requirements to be on that board. I mean, like, I'm not an engineer. I have 0 experience and background in anything utilities related, but guess what I do have? I'm a social worker, I'm an organizer, I understand public input, and I think that's why I've been able to, number one, fall in love with the utilities board, but also be a good advocate on there because I have that additional expertise. And so, or we could also expand those expertise to be able to include a variety of a larger, diverse group of people.
If you think about it, the larger, the more stable it is. That's what, yeah, and so if you get the majority of that wanting to move forward with an increase, I mean, that's pretty good. That means you're gonna need 5 people to vote in the affirmative, so.
Tell you what, Mayor, next year, I will bring a resolution forth to include 2 more members to the utilities board.
Sure you will. I'll be in there. No, I'm just kidding. Councilor Bita.
Thank you. I was going to say, I think really the only requirement I would think of is just making sure that they were a ratepayer.
Yep.
And then, from there, because I think we all bring different backgrounds. And even, somebody that doesn't have any sort of technical experience, they are still having to use the services. And so they're an expert because of that. So that would be the only requirement.
Sounds like Councilor Flores could serve on there. Just kidding. No, I'm just joking. No, I'm not. Was there a question? Okay. Oh, Councilor Coran.
No, I just wanted to thank you for the presentation and thank you for the amendments, which I think are there. I just wanted to sort of speak to the idea that we make the decision. I think that there's also something to that, to speak to the idea that I sat through the gas rate making process. It was painful. We were making up for years of kind of not having kept up with the cost of things, and then we were hitting folks with a very large increase in a very short amount of time. And I feel like we all felt that was problematic, right? I think that to me, I would like us to never be in that position again, and so this process seems like it's a step to remediate that particular dilemma that we face as policymakers, and I don't want to experience that kind of bigger rate-making process again, where we're having to catch up on safety issues, right? And so I think for me, this provides a little bit of an outlet to allow us to have less fraught decisions at those times when we make those decisions, because we're keeping up a little bit. I think it was 11 years or something that it had taken us to update the gas rates. And so thinking about how much of a difference this would have made in that conversation, I think for me, the amendments that include, still we have to be accountable to these rate increases. I think given those amendments, I would feel more comfortable doing so, because I do think we need to be held accountable to that. But I think it's a lot easier to be held accountable in small doses over a long period of time than in one large dose in 1 year. So for me, that part of it is very persuasive to me. So I just wanted to speak to appreciating that you brought a way to include the council's input still in that. So thank you.
Before you, Councilor Bacomo, let me just see if there's any members of the public here who wish to speak on this issue and kind of get a feel for what they have to what they have to say. Is there anyone here who wishes to speak on this issue? No? Okay. Councilor Como.
Thank you. I would like to make a motion to amend the resolution under 8I to read, if a phased-in adjustment is approved with city council approval, a LCU board can approve an annual increase not to exceed 5%. Do we have to vote on them separately? Oh, man.
Yeah, okay.
I second the amendment.
Okay. Motion made by Councilor Como, second by Councilor Karan. And so I would think that legal would change the verbiage a little bit because, because it just probably going to say, they have to have city council approval, so they can push it through and then it still be voted on by the council.
Making amendments is so much pressure.
Yeah, I know.
So.
Okay, so that's on that. Motion.
Clarification really quick. It would be 8CI? Okay.
Come on, Christine, pay attention. Just kidding. I'm just joking. I'm just messing with you. Okay, if there's no further questions on the amendment.
This is on the motion to amend Resolution 24-055 in Section 8CI. If a phased-in adjustment is approved, with City Council approval, LCU Board has the authority to approve. So, Councilor Abeyta.
Yes.
Councilor Graham.
Yes.
Councilor Bencomo.
Yes.
Councilor Karan.
Yes.
Councilor Flores.
Yes.
Councilor Gandara.
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes. Okay, now you have another amendment?
Yes, I would like to amend the resolution under 8CII to read, if full implementation adjustment is approved, LCU board can approve an annual increase based on consumer price index with a thorough public input process.
And if I may just comment on that, just public input, I think is more clear. I'd recommend against getting into what thorough public input might be.
I'm okay with that, with public input process.
So LCU Board can approve an annual increase with public input? Is that correct?
You're talking to CPI only. I mean, is that correct?
Yes, to include that to that number 2 bullet.
Okay, and let me just ask Linda, do you think it's necessary to repeat about the city council approval, or is that given? Because I'd hate to have that on the second, thinking, well, it just says you just have to have public input.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yes, okay, I can say on consumer price index with public input and city council approval.
Perfect. Is there a second? Okay. Motion made by Councilor Bencomo, second by Councilor Abeyta, to include on 8CII. It has to be approved by city council and include public input, public comment. Okay?
Okay, so this is on the motion to amend Resolution 24-055 to amend Section 8CII and put that LCU Board can approve, and then at the end add with public input and city council approval. Okay. Councilor Abeyta.
Yes.
Councilor Graham.
Yes.
Councilor Bencomo.
Yes.
Councilor Karan.
Yes.
Councilor Flores.
Yes.
Councilor Gandara.
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes. Okay, now we're on the main motion. There's any comments? Seeing none. Christine?
This is on the motion to approve Resolution 24-055 as amended. Councilor Abeyta.
Yes.
Councilor Graham.
Yes.
Councilor Bencomo.
Yes.
Councilor Karan.
Yes.
Councilor Flores. Councilor Gandara.
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes. Okay, so now we're going to...
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now we're going to go to 8.3, Council Bill number 24-009, ordinance number 3051.
Move to approve.
Second, Graham.
Motion made by Councilor Abeyta, second by Councilor Graham. And Dr. Tim Pitts will be presenting.
Boy, that's hard to see. Okay, Mr. Mayor, councilors, my name is Tim Pitts. I'm Deputy Director for the Community Development Department. I have with me today Angela Armijo. Currently, I am our named floodplain administrator until Angela gets her certification through, in which case then she will become, but all of this work is actually hers. I'm just the guy that signs the thing when it needs to sign, because I actually have the credential, and when she has it, we will be happy to have her up here presenting this to you. What we have today is an ordinance to alter our floodplain ordinance. Well, I guess that's the thing, an ordinance to repeal and replace. And it's under the National Flood Insurance Program is what this project is. And I know I heard Councilor Bencoma bragging about not being an engineer. I'm going to brag about being a former professor, and I can't help myself but to do a little education here. What we're talking about is the National Flood Insurance Program, and this is a federal program from the Federal Emergency Management Agency that allows property owners in Las Cruces to purchase affordable flood insurance. If we do not participate in this program, our residents do not get to buy flood insurance. And as the mayor could attest, flood insurance covers when water comes up in your house. Homeowners insurance will cover when water comes down, but homeowners insurance will not cover when water comes up. So if you have an issue of flood, if water's coming up from whatever source they come, if they flow in from the outside, you will need flood insurance. Flood insurance on the private market is very expensive, especially if you're in a high risk environment. The National Flood Insurance Program allows you a much cheaper policy. And by the city, by the city participating, the city commits to enforce flood-proof construction techniques and to responsibly manage our stormwater. So there's a lot of what we do especially here in Chapter 34. Public Works is big in helping us do this, and then our building program, the building permits and so on, are big in reaching the standards we need. You have already earlier today adopted the new building codes, so the International Residential Code, which gets adopted by us as the New Mexico Residential Code, already introduced some of these changes that I'm going to be talking about here today. I have here at the last change, these changes are required in order to get full credit. Let me talk about full credit for what. In the flood insurance program, there is a rating system, and every community is rated around the country, and it's a 1 to 10 rating system. 10 is the worst, 1 is the best. If you don't participate, everybody's a 10. If you participate, you get reductions based on how well you do at what your actions are. Each number you go down, you get a 5% increase in or 5% decrease in your federal insurance premiums. So it can be quite a bit. With the changes we're proposing here, we expect to get a 7, which would be a 15% reduction. We're going to introduce new changes next year to get us at least to a 6. We are, even at a 7, we're the best in New Mexico. But we would like to do better. We're very envious of the fire department and their high rating, and we want to do the same thing for our residents. If we don't adopt these things, we go to a 10 immediately. To get from a 10, you must have modern building codes adopted. What you adopted earlier meets that standard. So what are our changes we're recommending here today? That we are proposing a requirement for 1 foot of freeboard. So if you'll see the picture on the right, the red line, there is a line, and it does work, okay. You'll see this is the base flood elevation, or what's called the BFE in FEMA talk. What freeboard is we're going to say that you have to elevate your house 1 foot above base flood elevation. For those of you that may own homes, and again, public service announcement here, if you own a home and you are on grade and you say, I am not in a special flood hazard area, therefore I'm not at risk of flooding, you could, in a non-special flood hazard area, get up to 11 inches of flooding, and it does not count as a flood. It doesn't count towards the modeling as a flood, but you're going to have a foot of water in your house. So that's what this foot does for us, is it gives us that little leeway to allow you to not have a, even if your floodwaters do something weird, you'll have some safety before it's going to get in your house. So that was actually adopted already. So all we're asking you to is change the numbers in our ordinance to match what's in the building code. The second thing we are recommending here is to require substantial damage and substantial improvement measurements to be cumulative over 5 years. We've actually been doing that for many years. It just is unclear in our ordinance that we do it, and so we haven't gotten credit for it. But the people of Las Cruces have been doing that, and we're not getting credit towards our CRS. So we're going to just put it in the code. It's not a change to anybody that's done anything in the past. What substantial damage, substantial improvement is, if you modify a house that's in the floodplain by 50%, either because it was damaged from a flood by 50% or you improve it by 50%, then you must bring it into compliance. That is, typically you must raise it. You'll have to get out there, jack the house up, put it up 3 feet so that it's no longer under flood conditions. And that can be very expensive. The idea is that we want to diminish the number of buildings in floodplains in order to do that. So we'd make that cumulative. So if you come in 1 year and do a remodel in your kitchen, and then the next year you come back and put a new HVAC system in, and the next year that's cumulative. We're going to add all those up over a 5-year period. And if you get to 50%, we're going to be, no, you need to get into compliance. And then we just made some administrative changes. We've moved this program from the Public Works Department into the Community Development Department. And so we just change who's reporting on it. And that's it. That's all we got. So your standard choices.
Dr. Pitts, can you go back to the previous screen, please? And I just want to mention, I don't sell flood insurance anymore. I used to 10 years back. But so on this subdivision plat, are you, where it says...
I forgot that one, yeah.
The third bullet.
Yeah.
Are you suggesting that when a developer does the entire subdivision, that they raise it, or when they sell lots, and then when they sell a lot and then the contractor's going to build the house, that's when they have to lift it, make sure it's compacted by a foot or so?
Currently, when a developer comes in to develop a subdivision, if they're greater than 5 acres, we are not going to let them develop with floodplain in lots. So what we do is we have them raise the lots at that time if they're gonna raise them, or do whatever they need to do to modify the stormwater, build ponds that remove the water around, whatever it is they're going to do. But typically in Las Cruces is typically with fill. We fill and we raise the lot. So what we'll do is we'll have the subdivision builder, that developer, put the lots at above the base flood elevation. And so when you come to build a house on your own, anybody building in a subdivision that's been subdivided in the past 20 years, there are virtually no homes in floodplain in those cases. There were a couple of older ones that we still were building on, but...
Okay, so just to clarify, then so when a homeowner purchases the land, the lot, it's already been, most likely would have been lifted if it was in fact put in the flood. Okay, that's all I needed, clarification. Councilor Corrin?
Thank you. I just wanted to say, maybe if, Angela, I just wanted to say, first of all, the TSI committee did recommend and support these amendments. I really want to thank Angela for coming and presenting, and you all for thinking about this and allowing us to have that conversation there. So I just wanted to thank you, Angela. I don't know if you have other things you wanted to say, and also I love a good competition, so please, like the county is a 10, so if we're moving on up, I'm here for it. Like, come at it. I want to see the 6, I want to see the 5. I want to see us crush the rest of New Mexico. So please keep it up. Thank you again, Angela. I don't know if you have anything to add.
Councilor Flores, oh, your mic's not working? Maybe that's a sign that, no, just. Mayor Pro Tem, do you want to lend her your mic? No, wait, I don't think we can pick you up on
but the speaker can.
Thank you, Becky. So, Dr. Pitts, I have a question. You were very clear about flooding. If it comes from the sky and it floods your house, insurance coverage, home insurance doesn't cover it, right?
If it comes up from the ground. If it rains down on you.
Yeah.
And you have a hole in your roof, that'll be covered by your homeowner's insurance or some other insurance.
Correct.
If it comes, let's say the water comes down the road and washes into your house, or the rain comes down and it rises up around your house and comes in, that's flood insurance. Okay.
So this is something that I encountered when I was actually. So I counted this about 7 years ago, 6.5 years ago, when I was campaigning, and Los Abuelos area, you know, that gated community, is right next to the arroyo. The arroyo that the Custer brothers can't sell to anybody for even $1. That's the rumor out there. That's the legend. That arroyo did overflow at one point. I don't know if you were in the city, working for the city at that time, or living in the city, but the house, there was a house that was affected. It rose, and those people had no recourse whatsoever. Do you remember that? And it came up, and when David Dollahan was here, it came up at times. I don't know if it ever came to your department.
Mr. Mayor, Councilor Flores, I don't remember the instance that arroyo does run pretty heavy in heavy rains, and it has some issues.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised to see that happen, and I guess in the circuit, what I would say is, if you're not in a designated special flood hazard area, you still can purchase flood insurance, and you can purchase it through the federal program if you want, and you get a pretty good rate on it. So if you are in a situation, it's worthwhile.
You know, there's so much information that the public doesn't know, and Mr. and Mrs. White were the occupants of that house, and they were told, and I don't know if it was a city who told them, but it was someone that they thought knew what she was doing, that if they added to the wall, it wouldn't flood. Well, duh, it flooded anyway, and they had no recourse. It was so difficult for them that Mr. White ended up having a heart. He had they were elderly. They were probably really old, like in their 70s or 80s. I'm just kidding about that. They were probably, they both had really, really white hair. It might have been genetic. But at any rate, Mr. White ended up dying from a heart attack because it was so difficult. Now, my question is this. Why would the city allow any housing to be built so close to an arroyo? And don't tell me it never rains in New Mexico or in Las Cruces, because that was what did it for them. So do we have an ordinance apropos of all of this? Do we have an ordinance that addresses how close a structure, a home, whatever, could be built next to an arroyo? I heard that there is, but it looks like it has to be modified. It has to be changed. Do you know,
So,
Mr. Pitts?
Mr.
Pitts?
Mayor,
Thank you.
Councilor Flores, yeah, I think I have a pretty good idea of what you're talking about, and I agree with you. What I would say is that this ordinance is the one that keeps people from building homes in floodplain, or if they do, they are elevated, or they're somehow modified to modify the floodplain to minimize the damage that's the potential damage. But keep in mind that one, these floods we're talking about here are what are called, as they're called the base flood. And what that means is it's the flood that has a 1% chance of happening based on the rainfall that falls. Well, it doesn't just have to be rainfall, but generally speaking, rainfall. But it has a 1% chance of happening. But you can get very localized conditions that are much above the 1% level. And, again, based on what people are doing. So we need to be, this is one of the reasons why in Elevate we have, we propose standards for arroyos, for flood water, for keeping the floodplains clean, and you'll recall years ago, and it's been, about 6 or 8 years now, we did an arroyo management plan, and the idea was to put buffers around these arroyos so that they don't get developed. So these ideas are still here, and we are still working on them. Obviously, from a development perspective, you want to use all the land you can, but when it comes to risk, we have, the city has to be aware of the risks that we're taking on when we do those things. And sometimes we build too close to an arroyo, and yeah, it doesn't give much room for error.
So, Dr. Pitts, apropos of the Realize Las Cruces, you say that this, that, this, and that is in there, but I'm talking about an ordinance that would prohibit, and I wish that Royal Jones was still here so he could hear this, and John Moscato, that would prohibit any structure, any home, any business, and whatever it is, because I remember talking to Sharon Thomas about it, Sherry, Mayor Pro Tem Emeritus, and she said, oh, we do have legislation or ordinances or something, but it obviously didn't work for Mr. and Mrs. White. So well, I guess our city attorney is the person, but do you know whether we have a very specific ordinance? Someone said it was like 50 feet or something. That's not a lot. Anyway.
No, that would.
I know it's off
Mr.
topic,
Mayor,
but it's still
Councilor
subject.
Flores, it's not off topic because this is actually the issues that Angela is working on, and we're also working with Shoshana and her group on open space and open space preservation to exactly handle these issues. And I think we have we've got some things we'll be bringing forward. It takes time because there are differences of opinions amongst different people, and what we're trying to do is bring forward an ordinance that is enforceable and will last. It's not something that will get gutted by somebody saying, we're not going to do that, and then we want something that we can enforce going forward. So I just the issue in the Alameda Arroyo is a well-known one. We know very well what's going on there, and there's a lot of discussion of what to do with it. So in that case, we know, and we've dealt with at least several of those subdivisions have had to raise their lots in order to get them out of the floodplain. So we are enforcing what we have, and then we will, as we move forward, we will be enforcing other things. And as I said, we have goals, and just.
Well, I definitely hope that it's done soon because you just copped to the fact that the city's aware. So, anyway, I'd like to see it before I leave council in a couple of years, if I don't die before then.
Me too.
But thank
Me
you,
too.
Dr. Pitts, thank you.
Yeah. Counselor, just out of curiosity, where is this house located?
It's,
On the microphone.
I think it's called Los Abuelos or it's near Callejitas. It's a gated community.
Is it off of Roadrunner?
Huh?
Off of
No, it's off of Sonoma Ranch Boulevard.
North?
And
How old is the house?
that house at the time was probably, I don't know, 10 years old. Now it's older than that.
Because
Like,
the gentleman you're talking about only acquired that. That wasn't the original developer. They bought that. That was annexed by a different developer. And I think you might be, because they acquired that, I think, about 10 years ago, 12 years ago.
oh, I think it's older than that.
Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah,
So just, I just wanted to
Okay.
point that out. Thank you. Mhm.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Members of the public? Okay, seeing none. Christine?
This is on the motion to approve ordinance 3051. Counselor Beta?
Yes.
Counselor Graham?
Yes.
Counselor Bencomo?
Yes.
Counselor Cran?
Yes.
Counselor Flores?
Yes.
Counselor Canada?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes. Okay, next is board appointments, which there are none. Next is notice of proposed ordinances, Council Bill number 24-010, ordinance number 3052.
Bring it forward.
Bring it forward. Okay, next is council member board reports and comment. I just have a couple things. So this Saturday, normally we get a proclamation to support small business, and they got this to me, I got this a little bit late, and I said, it's too late for us to do a proclamation, so I just wanted to remind people this Saturday is Small Business Saturday, and if you could shop local. And I told her that I would point that out, because the majority of obviously those that shop local, those local businesses, that money stays here in the community instead of being shipped off to big corporate places. No, I don't think so. Well, there is, but I think it's around school time. And there was one more that I had. Okay, well, I'm going to just do this off memory recall. So, excuse me, so a while back we had, in fact, Representative Lujan was here, and there was, I think, supposed to be someone else. And if you recall, they were wanting to see about getting money from the legislature to do a study to turn Loman from 4 lanes into 3. And so I think there are a couple of sponsors who are willing to do this, but what they were wanting to know is if the city could either front the cost and then get reimbursed by the legislature. And in order to do that, you would have to have some type of agreement. Now, I don't know if that's going to be done between now and the end of the year, but just wanted to put that on your radar. Okay?
And then where does it go from here?
Oh.
Oh, I'm sorry. So where does it go from here? I mean, they want to do that, but, as Mr. Cedillo said, it'd be difficult to do that because there's so many businesses that have access, direct access. I mean, I don't know if that could be done.
Well, this is just about to do the study. The
Oh,
study may
just
the study may
study.
point that out.
Oh, okay.
It may
They're
very
gonna
well
find
point
out.
that out.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I don't think I can get this done before the end of December. So, or
Okay.
I think our last meeting is probably December 18th or something like that. So, but just loading up for next year for you all. Stay busy. That's all I've got. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. I wanted to speak to, I think it was Ms. Martinez that came and spoke in regards to the parks and the conditions of the park. The pictures speak volumes, and I think people misunderstand who runs sort of the tournaments and the different leagues and such, and I would advocate for, Parks and Rec to be more clear somewhere. I don't know where, maybe on the computer, on our website, because I think people think, well, you charge all these for the season, and when tournaments come, this is what you're charging, and people are left with the impression that this money is, in some fund that the city has, and you're not using it directly, particularly, specifically parks, like Mag Park and the rest, Paz Park and the rest of them. So I think it'd be nice to have it somewhere that says who the league is and responsible and those things. But we are ultimately responsible for the maintenance of the parks. So even I had been talking about updating our parks and what could we do more specifically, and I had recommended pulling money from different places, maybe specifically Telshare Fund, to update. Like what is it going to cost to update the parks and keep them maintained? And so I know we spoke more specifically to pulling from the Telshare Fund, and I've received in the last few months several complaints about the parks and sort of the maintenance and people getting there that need to open up the parks at different times, the restrooms, the gated areas, and more specifically for ADA accessibility. And so for some reason, maybe staff feels like only one set of gates should be opened, which makes it really difficult for our elderly community members and people who have issues, just getting right out of their vehicle into the stands, or, seated to watch their grandkids play. So I'm hoping that we can be a little more mindful of that. And I know, Ikana, you've been great, and I appreciate when I've sent complaints over, you've addressed them and addressed them very timely. But I think this is sort of a piece of that. And then I want to say special thanks to the Neighborhoods program, Tree New Mexico. We planted our first set of trees across the neighborhood in the Lift Up area. It was a really great Saturday morning to do that. They had a number of volunteers. They had been working in the neighborhood, in the Lift Up area, reaching out to neighbors, asking if they wanted to have trees planted. So we planted a number of trees, and then they gave 50-plus trees away to a number of the neighbors, and it was just a great program. And they're going to be doing that I think 3 times a year. They have a certain amount of money to do that, and I thought that was a very nice way to continue to beautify our neighborhood in the Lift Up area. Just a PSA, the surveys are out. I've received 2 in that Lift Up area addressing, kind of that same survey, Ikani, that was sent initially about what are you seeing, what are the priorities, those kinds of things. I'm not sure if there's a deadline on that, and it'd be nice to know that so we could get that information out. Let's see. I think that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Flores, you want to pass, or you want? Okay, Councilor Corrin.
Thank you. I just have a couple quick things. One is a really quick follow-up to a meeting I had last week. I'm hoping, and I sent a follow-up email to IFO, but I'm hoping that we can consider the Peachtree Hills Apartments Phase 2 affordable housing complex before the end of the year. That plan has been developed. They're going to be breaking ground on Phase 1, but it is currently eligible for the low-income housing tax credit, but that will end at the end of the year. So I'm asking if we can somehow move that in the queue so that it can be considered by council. I think it's already in the consideration queue, but I'm hoping we can make sure that that is considered by council before the end of the year so that that funding opportunity and frankly then that development don't disappear. I also want to thank Officer Tristan Smith, who went out and met with representatives from the French brothers to talk to them about opportunities to reduce theft of building and construction materials, and also even clarifying some things that were really just confusion about what part of town this was in and if it was the county or the city. And so I think I really appreciate Officer Smith for meeting with them and connecting and following up. So thank you for that. I also want to give a quick shout of gratitude to Representative Rubio, who came and talked about mobility justice at the last TSI PRC, and what that looks like in terms of our own planning and thinking about mobility in our city. Next month, there will be a conversation about bus stop shelters, so that will be something, thanks to Councilor Bencomo for providing the lead on that. I had a community meeting on Saturday at the ASCMV, which was also kind of a soft opening for the ASCMV. It was great. There were a lot of puppies. There's a shocking number of puppies at the ASCMV, which is now beautiful, and it's a lot less depressing to go there. I have to acknowledge that it's a lot happier to walk around and look at the animals, so I encourage anyone who might be considering it to go and do so. The official grand opening will be, I think, on December 7th at 2 p.m., so you'll be hearing more about that soon. But the animals are there and the staff are working from there and adoptions are happening. But I do want to thank for my community meeting, in particular Katrina and Grace, who really made it happen. It was a weekend thing. It's sort of a different model than maybe community meetings normally grow. There were folks from economic development, codes, including Libby the dog, who was, of course, a big hit, as was McGruff the crime dog, slightly different and a little more scary than Libby. But present, and there were kids getting pictures taken with McGruff the crime dog, so in their future lives, we can definitely email those to them, just as a friendly reminder. Public Works was there, quality of life, including the library and senior programs, animal control, and the ASCMV folks who hosted us and put up with our going around and giving tours. So I really appreciate everyone that made that happen. Thank you very much. It was very cool, and I recommend it as a model. I did talk to every constituent that came, so it wasn't like, I just think it's a different kind of model for a community meeting, and I really enjoyed it. The last of my items is a shout out to staff, but also just a shout out to our city. Thank you to EFO, HR, and in particular, Gail Estelle and HR. The city of Las Cruces in the past was ranked 73 out of 100 in the Municipal Equality Index, which is the human rights campaign measure of a city's support of LGBTQ+ people who live and work there. Last year we were 73 and we were number 3 in the state. This year our score was 89 and we were 2nd in the state, and so that's a really dramatic increase from barely passing to please give me a little extra credit so I can get an A. So I think next year we'll be in the A range, and so I just want to give a shout out to Gail from HR working on that to increase our score, and really just say how proud I am to work here and know that we're committed to making Las Cruces great for LGBTQ folks, and that it's recognized by a national organization. So that's the last of my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Before I get to Councilor Como, I can't believe I forgot this. So the Aggies had this great win over the weekend against Auburn, which was pretty amazing. The first time in over 60 years to win against an SEC team, Southeast Conference, and they came out ranked 34th in the nation today. So that's pretty cool. That's the Aggie football team. Okay, Councilor Bencomo.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for those comments, Councilor Corrin. Thank you for your work on that. That's really incredible. I wish the constituent would have stayed too. She stayed through most of it, and I was hoping she would stay to hear my comments on this as well, because much to like what one of our public comments said today about, bringing forth certainly complaints and concerns, and also in good faith in a way that says, I really want to work on these issues. And honestly, these pictures are really concerning. This is not a bathroom facility I would feel comfortable using, and I think we absolutely need to figure out how to address some of these issues. I wondered, Ikani, remind me, have we allocated the $2 million GO bond that was for parks infrastructure or improvements? Have we allocated that to any projects? I cannot remember. I am so sorry.
Councillor Bencomo, Ikani Tamopiao, at this moment, I am under the belief that we are still planning and assessing those. So we're still talking with the team. We're meeting with the Go Bond internal team on that, but we haven't spent that, from my understanding, yet.
I mean, I know there's a lot of priorities and not enough money, right? For parks especially, I know that. And perhaps that will require a work session soon about how we address these things, because we should all, want a higher standard. And I think that's an important conversation for us to have, to figure out what the gaps are, what Parks and Rec, if they're saying we need X, Y, Z, I want to be able to, hear that. So I just wanted to say that. A couple of weeks ago, I spoke about Casa de Peregrinos requesting for an additional grant given the food costs, and NIFO said, well, get us a number. And Lorenzo did get something to me in writing, and I will share that with Christine so that she can share that with everybody. But they are requesting for a $100,000 grant to increase its availability to provide healthy, nutritious food to low-income residents. One of the biggest reasons is inflation. The increase in food prices of over 12% caused by the COVID pandemic has not gone away. Food prices have continued to be on the rise. The second issue is an increased client demand. And lastly, a decrease in available funding. So it's really sort of this perfect storm. And I would like to honor the work that they do for our community. And I'm happy to ask if they've gone to the county as well, as perhaps this could be half and half, I don't know. But, I did want to bring that back and put it on staff's radar again, because I think this is a really critical moment, especially as we go into winter months. And I don't know, I feel like I'm forgetting something, but I'll stop there. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. So I got to share something with you. It's kind of funny. My first job, 1978, worked at Taco Bell, right? Loved it. I had a blast. I remember one time, it was in the evening, I heard this funny noise coming from outside, and because the bathrooms are outside. I walk out, there's this guy beating up the bathroom. I go, what are you doing? He's just destroying it. It's 1978. And of course he was, in fact, I think I knew the guy, someone that went to school together. But what I'm trying to get at is, and then when later on when they got with the county, experienced the same thing. I mean, it is so difficult. I don't know what it is with bathrooms. People just like to destroy them. They just do. And that's why you're seeing these all steel commodes, everything all steel, because you can't have it looking kind of nice without it being destroyed. The graffiti, I don't know what the poor bathroom did to them, but they just do it. And it's been that way since the beginning of time, so at least for me. And then the second thing, I'm supportive of that 100,000, so I'd like, if that's the consensus, to at least have Connie, have Sergio work up something, and maybe put up to 100,000. That way if we get some commitment from the county, then we can go up to 100. Minimum 50, say up to 100,000, something like that. So. In fact, I'm the one who made the chimichanga. I discovered it. I did it in Taco Bell. Yeah, because I did it because I was bored, and I thought, this is how I'm going to eat my burrito and deep fry it. Yeah, so, not Alceps, I did it. Okay, Councilor Graham.
Also in support of the additional funding that we were talking about. And I had a really dumb question that I wanted to ask, and then I felt bad, and then the mayor told his Taco Bell story, so I'm just going to go for it. Chief Story, is McGruff the crime dog? Is that somebody internal to us who has to wear that costume, or did we contract out for McGruff for that event?
I also want to know about fire and the...
Oh yeah, who was Stay Puft the Marshmallow Man?
Councilor Graham, Jeremy Story, Interim Chief Police. That is internal, and I don't want to reveal who it is, but there's usually one person who wears it more often than not.
Interesting.
So they do a great job.
And Chief Smith, do you want to comment on Stay Puffed?
Mayor, Councilor Graham, Fire Chief Jason Smith, for the record, I believe personnel items are handled by the city manager and shouldn't be shared. I'll look for Ms. Samples to weigh in on that.
Okay, fantastic. No, I'm always so interested in costumed characters at events. Even though I am not the Becky who was a costumed character, my colleague, Councilor Karan, you were
A kangaroo, a pig 2 different times, and 3 rabbits.
Amazing. Thank you, Mayor.
I think my Taco Bell story was a little bit better by that. So. Councilor Beta.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple brief announcements. One, just a reminder that there is not a quality of life meeting this month. We'll have an early one next month. And then the second, I do want to say thank you to everyone. I was gone last week. I had 2 conferences that I was attending. One was with public health, but the other one was National League of Cities. And so from that, acting as a state affiliate rep, but looking at other states, we're put in with a Western group, which is actually quite expanded. But honestly, New Mexico is doing pretty well in comparison to a lot of different states, just as far as what types of funding is coming back into cities and the type of support that we've had, especially as we look at what types of capital outlay that has gone back across the state over the last year or so. So that was fairly positive to look at and view. And then, of course, I attended a few different workshops, some on, expanding your municipal policy through after-school programs, to looking at different types of housing and, the governmental agencies. So it was very informative, and that's all. Very quick.
Thank you, Councilor. Thank you for your work on that. I did mention that you were out of town on some meetings, so.
Thank you.
Also, if you just reminded me, there will be no work session next Monday. So everyone have a happy and safe Thanksgiving, and so agenda sitting, right. I'll take care of that. So with that, we'll give it to the city manager. Ifo Pili's on leave, and so of course filling in is his trusty lieutenant, Ikani Tamalpeo, who assistant city manager. So you have the city manager's report.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, City Council. Just a few announcements. I have been told by PIO office, if you get a chance, remind people to vote for the chili drop. Link is on the city website, lascruces.gov. Go to chili drop in hot topic section. You can vote daily. You get two votes a day. For the next 2 weeks, we'll see that you'll get us caught up, Mayor Pro Tem. So add another vote per day. We are currently in second place right now, and second place. And so if all of us in this room, we may be able to get us to the top. It is a USA Today Reader's Choice Travel Awards contest for the best drop on New Year's. So 2 weeks. Next, during public comments, we heard about the residents' experience at the baseball fields at Paz. There's a few things happening. I just wanted to let council know that I hear our team is working on bringing to you during budget season. Parks and Rec team, they're currently assessing right now projects to elevate or enhance certain facilities that over time have perhaps worn down, but do need a bit more funding. So our team is working on that, and during budget session, you should see some of those projects and go from there. In addition to that, appreciate David Cedillo shooting me an update. The Paz parking lot, currently as a project, they proposed to add some millings and upgrade the parking lot. That is something that we have tentatively proposed between December and February right now, but due to cost and timing, that's something our Public Works team is going to do in-house. It may be more in the spring, but that is just an update I wanted to share with council happening at that baseball field at Paz Park parking lot. Additionally, there was mention about Peachtree Hill development and hopefully getting that in front of council before New Year's. I appreciate our city clerk reminding me that that is something that's coming in front of you on December 4th for a pre-commitment for tax credit. Additionally, the second to the last announcement I wanted to make, kudos to our VLC team. They have worked very hard this past year and all years, but this past year, they've committed themselves to really go all in on the best of state events. There is something called the New Mexico Hospitality Association Top Hat Awards, which is the best of the state. And we had 9 nominations and we're finalists on 9 of those. We were awarded 4 awards. The first being Best Broadcast Campaign for the Real New Mexico Online Broadcast Streaming Campaign. Judges mentioned that the messaging was captivating and visuals as a factor in their decision. The second award was Best Outstanding Event for Spaceport America Cup. The event brings thousands of students from around the world to Las Cruces to participate in the event. The third award went to Hospitality Professional of the Year for Russell Hernandez, who is on the VLC board, experienced Mesilla and incoming mayor for Mesilla. Judges mentioned his work in the community and education promotion of Las Cruces and Mesilla. And the last award was Best New Experience for Mira Las Cruces. This was a tie, but judges mentioned that the turnout for a first-time event highlight of the culture and community was a huge factor in their decision. Visit Las Cruces notes that its dedicated talented staff and the importance of partnerships with local state agencies like NAMCO, Simply Social, Sinuate, 7505, and other supporting community partners assisted in this. Last but not least, tree lighting holiday ceremony will be on Saturday, December 2nd. Mayor, are you going to be there? Okay, perfect. So, yep. So Mayor is inviting. Do you want Councilor Flores to say the speech? No. Well, he'll think about that. Mayor, we'll get back to you, Councilor Flores. Tree lighting. This is my time here. Thank you. Tree lighting. I'm not conceding the floor here. Tree lighting. The holiday tree lighting ceremony is from 6 to 8. This is Saturday, December 2nd. And the celebration features live music, exciting activities, photo opportunities, food trucks, everything and more. The tree is scheduled to be lit at 7 p.m. Again, Saturday, December 2nd. Thank you, Mayor.
All right, thank you. No, you all are welcome. Yeah. Yeah, okay. Okay, so if there's nothing further, entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved, Graham.
Second, Abeyta.
Motion made by Councilor Graham, second by Councilor Abeyta, that we adjourn. Christine?
This is on the motion to adjourn the regular meeting. Councilor Abeyta?
Yes.
Councilor Graham?
Yes.
Councilor Bencomo?
Yes.
Councilor Cran?
Yes.
Councilor Flores? Yes. Councilor Gondeta?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes. Okay, it's 4:12 p.m. We're adjourned. Thank you. Have a happy Thanksgiving, everyone.